So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the final part of the story, what if Naruto was in Uchiha? That said, you all know what to do next, right? Comment the next story you want to hear, you can even send me a mail, I will leave my mail in the description. If you guys enjoy this what if and want more, comment down below to let me know. The comments on videos really help me out a lot. They motivate me to upload more frequently, so please do comment down below. Before I start, please do support for more awesome contents and leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And share this video with your friends and also check out the descriptions and check out the playlists. With that out of the way, let's start. Walking through the thick rainforest on their guard were Shisui and Jinkusu. Once they arrived on the mainland via shipwreck, the two Uchiha sought to explore and search for their two clanmates. Thankfully, the crew survived, meaning they could get off the island once the ship was repaired. Shisui used the tanto to cut the branches sticking out in front of him. This island is jamming my senses. Just what is this place? I thought I was the only one. Jinkusu spoke, following closely behind Shisui as he held onto his large blue tachi. Ready to draw it at a moment's notice. Their eyes traveled around the forest, still keeping an eye out for those monsters the ship crew talked about. So they moved deeper and deeper into the forest, trying to find any clues that Naruto and Mira had come to the same island. Shisui's watchful eye picked up something on the ground. It was large, the size of his head, and shaped like a paw print of a beast. Damn, this thing is massive. Even when putting his hand onto the print, it barely took up any space inside the footsteps of this giant. Jinkusu couldn't suppress the excited feeling he got from seeing this paw print. It was definitely Hikawa's influence shining in as now he felt tempted to go and hunt down this beast and take it for himself. Bind the animal to him in a summoning contract. He would become the predator as this monster would become his prey. This was going to be entertaining as he now looked for another target in this forest. His fingers twitched and he clutched his tachi. Okay, let's get going before this thing comes back. We'll go up into the trees and maybe find a better view. Yeah. Jinkusu answered and his body followed Shisui. While his mind traveled off to a distant place. The two then found themselves climbing up a large tree and got what they were looking for. Welp, we are going to be here for a minute. Jinkusu pulled himself up on the branch next to Shisui and saw the sight which made him sigh. Surrounding them was nothing but trees in all directions as far as the eye could see. But that wasn't the only thing. In the storming sky were large birds flying in flocks that would terrorize the public. Leaping into the air was another large animal snatching it from the sky with large arms. It looked like a gorilla as its body was still bulky and hairy. I've never seen a gorilla jump that high before or eat meat with such savagery. Jinkusu watched as the birds launched bullets of chakra from their mouths to fight off the mad jumping gorillas. Over to the west, Shisui saw a large building attached to a massive stadium. There is some sort of arena to the west. I don't know why that would be here of all places. If I had to guess, I'd say it was to test these animals out in a deathmatch. You're probably right, that building looks like some large observatory. Shisui said. If the other two saw it, maybe they would head in that direction to avoid all this rain. Speaking of rain, we should definitely let this storm blow over first before we go searching in some forest unknown to us. Jinkusu pulled at his silk shirt that stuck to his body. Alright, it will also wash away our scent to any predators looking to have us for a meal. They both leaped down to the muddy and dirty ground. I wouldn't mind, I'd like to see how these animals taste. Jinkusu imagined what that large bird would taste like over a stove and dipped in barbecue sauce. Interrupting their conversation was a puff of smoke. Coming from the white cloud was a growing gray kitten damp from the rain. It was Komaki, Naruto's personal ninja cat. Her soft blue eyes lit up when she saw the two. She jumped on Shisui's shoulder and wrapped herself around him while rubbing herself against him. Smiling, Shisui rubbed Komaki's small head with a smile. While doing this, he noticed a note in her mouth. Shisui took the note from Komaki's mouth and began reading the note. Hello brother, Mira and I are okay and on this strange island. I am making this while Komaki is in my lap. If she leaves it means you are alive. I tried to sense your chakra out but there appears to be some kind of jammer. But since I have Komaki, all I need to do is think of your name and face. If you are alive Komaki will be brought to you and if not then she won't move. That is how summoning works after all. So if she leaves, I want to let you know we are okay. Or at least I am. Mira is a little fatigued from her new jutsu. We have found a big cave that housed some kind of bear with armor and chakra. He's making a comfy blanket as of now though. Anyways, we took notice of the large building structure and we'll go check it out first thing in the morning. Or, you two can come to our cave for the night. Komaki can take you back to her home and then summon herself again to me. So if you summon yourself with Komaki, I'll see you soon. If not, see you in the morning. Shisui let out a breath. They are okay and posted up in a cave. He left us with a choice though. Shisui handed Jinkusu the note in case he wanted to read it. We can go with them to the cave and spend the night or find our own. We can survive without them for a night. We still have a place to sleep on the ship even if it is barely holding up. Jinkusu gave his answer making Shisui nod as well. Now that he knew they were okay, Shisui was fine with them spending the night separated. Okay, Kamaki. You can give Naruto our answer. The kitten nodded its head and left through a black starry portal. How does she do that? I know it's a genjutsu and even when I'm ready, I still fall victim to it. Jinkusu sounded as if he was pouting. But he wasn't and only looked angry at himself. Shisui laughed and patted him on the shoulder. Don't know, maybe Naruto will learn and tell us one day. Inside a dark cave, Naruto and Mira were lying next to each other underneath a thick coat of the bear Naruto killed. They used it to warm their bodies up from the cool rain. Mira also saw this as the perfect opportunity to snuggle next to Naruto. To keep warm, Mira had said. Though it was true. So as Naruto laid back with his hands behind his head. Mira was flush against his body, intertwining their legs as well as holding him around the waist. Smiling gently, Mira was relaxed by the warmth of Naruto's body. Mira-chan, how are you feeling now? Naruto asked, gently rubbing her head. Much better. She all but purred. Earning a smile from Naruto. That's great, you need to be fully recovered for tomorrow. Don't sweat it, I'll be able to handle whatever comes at us on this island. He could feel Mira's smile on his chest as her voice was laced with well-deserved arrogance. That's when Kamaki fell from a portal and landed on Mira's head. Oh, I'm sorry. Softly muttering an apology. It's fine, you weigh as much as a feather. She's growing. Naruto defended his cute little kitten. Kamaki crawled next to Naruto and licked his face. So, what did elder brother Shisui say? That they will meet you at the stadium tomorrow morning. As of now, they are going back to the ship to rest. Kamaki earned a head rub from Naruto making her purr in content. That's good then. You can go back home if you want. Only for Kamaki's tail to sway gently and she stared at Naruto shyly. Well, I want to stay here with Yu. That's fine. His answer made her light up and she found a place next to him and curled up into his side. And all three of them went to sleep that night in prep for what was to come tomorrow. Inside a spacious dark room was a red-eyed woman standing in front of a large tank the size of a lake and just as deep as one. The room was lit by only torches on the wall and a haunting silence settled in the room. The delicate girl of 14 looked into the tank with a fondness rarely seen on her face. She looked to be gazing lovingly into the tank as if her own child was swimming in the water. You will be perfect, I'm going to make sure of it. Inside a very long and humongous creature could be seen. But only its shadow wiggled around impatiently. I know you are eager to get out, but we are still not done building you. A loud monstrous hiss sounded from the tank. And in the murky waters of this monster's cage, two big blue eyes shone balefully upon her. Shivering slightly, she decided it was time to leave. I will leave then. So she turned and began to walk away as two white large tassels followed her on the ground. She was wearing a nice sleeveless kimono. Its color was a two-tone purple with the chest area being a darker shade than the trimmings of the outfit. It did well to match her flawless pale skin. She was a petite young girl with a small body to small legs. With her white shorts showing as much. There was also a big bow on her back and those tassels were just the strings of the bow. This was Hinoka, a surviving Uzumaki. She was a researcher on this deserted island dedicated to creating the perfect summoning creature. And she was happy to admit the time was near. Even though these intruders somehow made it to this island. Even through the storm, she managed to summon. Those persistent shinobi still made it past. So as she entered a white lab filled with small jars to man-sized jars. Inside these jars were other animals used to create the perfect beast. Around these jars stood other scientists eagerly writing on their clipboards. You all, I have grave news. Hinoka made herself known to the working doctors. They turned to face her, seeing the serious expression she had. What is it? Is he acting up again? They were all familiar with the antics of their summon. Yes, but that is normal. The real news is that our island has been invaded. The news shocked them and even knew how to react. What are we going to do, Dr. Uzumaki? One asked. We can't let these ninjas find out what we are doing or they will shut us down. As they all began to panic, Hinoka watched them calmly. Before she grew tired of it and raised her voice a bit. Relax. We aren't going to do anything. Yet. She grinned. They are unfamiliar with this land and are subject wandering. And if the situation calls for it, well just let him take care of it. Hinoka had an idea of what the shinobi would do. No doubt they would visit their large facility in the forest. So she would prepare a surprise for them which would surely leave them speechless. Prepare the stadium. We are going to watch as our creations do battle against the real deal shinobi of the world. Naruto used a hand to move his slightly long purple hair from his face. On top of the stadium, the wind was strong. Mira sat on the edge dangling her feet as she waited for the other two. Okay, here they come. Naruto rolled his shoulders and got ready to leave. Just as he finished, Shisui and Mira flashed into two individuals. Shisui picked up Mira in a big hug, smiling. I'm glad you're alright. The two blood siblings separated, feeling relieved to feel the other once again. Inkusu just bumped fists with Naruto and gave a small hug. I knew you'd be good. Same for you, I'm more worried for the animals. The two brothers relished in each other's company. Ever since they met that day, a bond was formed between the two. A bond that was as tough as the strongest metal on the earth. Okay, have you two found any way to get inside this fortress? Shisui asks to come back to the mission at hand. We could always just bust the place open. Mira commented. Although it would be easier, we don't know what we are dealing with. Shisui gave his wise advice. So we should play it safe first. Oh. From here we can see three big gates, which most likely release the animals to fight. So we could go through them. Or sneak in through the vents on top of the office building next to us. Shisui thought about it for a moment. He also looked over the Colosseum. It was a very large construction made from a beige-colored stone. Indeed, there were three gates that were large enough for massive animals to exit. It's a risk. We might run into animals if we just walk through the tunnels. So the vents it is. Or you could fight your way through. A voice sounded. It was coming from everywhere all at once. No doubt the use of speakers was planted somewhere. Look out. Jinkusu acted quickly and lashed out with a Kinjutsu attack. Sweeping blade. His sword arched out and killed a dozen of those giant buzzard-looking birds. There's more. Naruto turned and readied his side. His side as well. Shisui pulled out his tanto, which was lit with flames. As one synchronized group, the birds released a giant blast of chakra. In order to avoid the destructive attack, they all jumped off the roof and landed in the arena. Beneath their feet lit up seals of chakra. Before any of them could avoid this trap, Naruto, Mira and Shisui disappeared from their previous locations via summoning seals. Ah, am I to fight the remaining bird army alone? Jinkusu looked around as the birds flapped above him. No, you will fight a beast. A strong one that slaughters all its prey within 2 minutes. The voice informed him. All the birds flew into the stands and sat down to watch. And he's hungry. Whoever this is, they are female. And have a great knowledge of seals. Probably some mad scientist if I had to guess. Jinkusu looked to the rising gate in front of him. Even from where he stood, there was no doubt about it. This beast was very strong as its primal chakra radiated absolute power. Walking slowly and menacingly was a large and heavily built black jaguar. It was about the size of a fully grown horse. Even still, the beast was still a cat, so it was naturally nimble. Its eyes were glistening pearls of yellow. No doubt, you're that beast. Jinkusu moved to the center and made eye contact with the imposing creature. It was odd, as the jaguar looked at him with intelligence. Its body was dark as night and spotted with dark brown patches. You are coming home with me, bud. Jinkusu felt his lips spread into a grin showing his white teeth. The jaguar opened its mouth, releasing a roar and a burst of chakra as it did so. He could see the massive teeth that could rip through his body like butter. The jaguar rushed him with surprising speed and launched its heavy paw at him. Jinkusu ducked under the claw swipe and sent a punch into the beast's stomach. Upon contact, he could feel his hand tremble from the pain as it felt like running his hand into a wall of bricks. That, however, didn't stop the beast from being sent skidding away. Don't like that? He asked the beast snarling in front of him. Jinkusu this time rushed in as he swung his sword, but the jaguar sent one of its claws which deflected Jinkusu's blade. The jaguar used its speed again and swiped its sharp claws that ripped into Jinkusu's chest. Even though the cut hurt, Jinkusu didn't flinch away and cut the jaguar along the chest as well. An equivalent exchange as they both sustained cuts. Both slowly started to circle each other as they locked eyes and tuned out all the distractions that would interrupt them. Jinkusu crouched low to the ground and twirled his tachi in his hand. His Sharingan came to life and immediately formed 3 Tomo. Chakra began rolling off the young Uchiha as he was determined to win and claim this beast for himself. The jaguar matched Jinkusu's intensity as its chakra rolled off its body in a shade of purple. Underneath it, the shadows wiggled until they literally rose from the ground and formed identical copies of the jaguar. Now Jinkusu knew the jaguar could control shadows and form its own copies. It seemed to grin mockingly at him as its shadowy purple chakra covered the Colosseum. No words needed to be said as the two beasts began fighting once again. One was to claim ownership over the other, while the second was out for blood. Naruto found himself among a forest of rapid beasts. Even as they growled down at him from the trees or glared at him from behind. He was surrounded by a horde of rabid deformed animals intent on leaving him dead. This would only be a few minutes if what he could see was correct. It was only a couple hundred of them. So Safayu made herself known by humming gently in his hand. The first beast moved in, a fast one looking more like a large rabbit with buff arms. Before its muscular arms could crack his skull open, Naruto's movement blurred and the rabbit was diced into many pieces. The trees began to be painted with blood and the grass would now forever be stained crimson as the plants drank the foul blood of Naruto's victims. And it's a monster party. Shisui looked around him as he was underground in a cave. Small creatures clung to the wall and blinked at him. Well, at least you are all gathered around for me. The small creatures then all clumped together to form one giant beast of a monster. A spider to be exact, which filled up the entire cave with its eyes alone. Giant house-sized legs with big pincers. Its many eyes were filled with a primal lust to destroy. It hissed and spit out a large green-like fluid that melted the spot he was previously in. Not a fan of visitors, are we? Shisui, the funny guy he thought he was, mocked the devilish spider. It seemed to not like that as it spewed even more of its acid around the room to try and take him out. Only for Shisui to flash around using body flicker. In doing so, he looked for any kind of weakness he could spot on the spider. Taking things a step further, Shisui created after-image clones which served to make the spider's eyes attempt to track all of his clones at the same time. Using his opening, Shisui appeared underneath the spider. He lunged upward toward the spider and jammed his tanto deep into its underbelly and ripped it all the way through. Its blood was blue as it dripped to the ground. The spider let out a pained hiss that scratched at Shisui's ears. The pretty-eyed boy covered his nose from the smell. It smells like Mira when she's done eating spicy tacos. But he saw the spider getting back to its feet and standing back up. The blood had also stopped and the wound healed over. So you can also heal and shoot acid. What else can you do? As if responding to his question, the spider started birthing more spiders right in front of him. The thing looked like it was grinning as well, taking pleasure in messing with him. Oh brother, this might take a minute. Mira fell and sliced apart an overgrown scorpion clean in half. Mira jumped in between the animals, cutting them open as she did so. Just a minute, you'll all get your turn. Mira turned into a whirlwind of slashes as her dagger flared to life with fire and scorched the beast to the bone. Fire style. 6 rings. 6 spinning rings of fire formed around Mira like a hula hoop. It was like a moving barrier around her as they moved along with her and burned the beast. Mira was in the forest fighting off a horde of scorpions and angry apes. She sent her hand out and the outer ring moved to enclose a group of the scorpions and then blew up into large flames with a squeeze of her palm. The apes then tried to ambush her by doing a dog pile, only for the rings to turn into a spinning dome of fire that protected her. Waha. Brother Jinkusu has been using his jutsu wrong the whole time, it's more of a protective jutsu than an attacking one. During a spar once, Mira saw Jinkusu use this jutsu to try and defeat her. It didn't work as she was nimble like a kitten, which didn't allow Jinkusu to trap her in the ring of fire, nor did he catch her in the explosion of it. So Mira asked if he could teach her the jutsu, which he did. Causing Mira to advance the jutsu to a new level and completely rework it. Alright, scrubs. I've had enough of this. Mira stopped running once she got a good distance away. I'll kill all of you in one swoop. Mira activated her beautiful Mangekyo Sharingan. The sun pattern of her Sharingan glowed brightly as Senjin's flames blessed her hands. The red flame crackled on her hand in a display of its intensity. Senjin flare. Mira tossed a ball of flame into the horde of monsters and watched as it exploded into a large dome of fire that could be seen from all over the island. It soared above the trees and even took out the birds in the sky, shaking the ground around them from the magnitude of the explosion as it laid waste to everything. Wahahaha. And Mira wins again. This is even more than what I was expecting. Naori was in awe of the pure wealth that came from this godly temple. Outside was a sculpture of water in the image of the daimyo. The temple was miles long from east to west and it even had 2 stories. Yup, this is how daimyos are, all that money and just can't help but flex. Mei said, sounding more jealous than anything. No need to be jealous cause you're a brookie. I wouldn't know anything about that, being a rich guy myself. Hasato couldn't help but throw his own wealth at Mei. He made money from his life-saving surgeries and top-notch medical service. Fall off a cliff, asshole. Mei glared. If she had all that money, Mei would do the same thing. She couldn't even lie to herself. The amount of makeup she'd buy or rich clothing was absurd. Money is only a material treasure, it cannot go with you once you pass on. To pursue wealth and success is not the same as only obtaining money. Utataka spoke, sounding more like a wise man imparting his wise knowledge. This guy is definitely broke. For the first time, Mei and Hasato shared the same thought. Exactly, Utataka, you should pursue happiness. Naori took the side of the Jinchuriki. Naori herself had tons of money from high-ranking missions and positions. Instead of throwing it in others' faces, she used it to support her family and village. Naka though, he was quite the big spender who gambled slightly. Often leading to Naori being quite upset with him. Only for Naka to make it up to her later. Naori turned so the others couldn't see the blush creep to her face. Thinking about that now was not a good thing. She needed to focus on the task at hand. Thank you Mizukage-sama, young ones these days don't understand that riches are temporary. The man thanked her with a smile while the others rolled their eyes. But I do wonder, Mizukage-sama. How did you manage to get an appointment with the daimyo? When Hasato asked this, Naori stiffened noticeably. What? You didn't secure an appointment with the daimyo of our country? Hasato again asked, sounding angered and annoyed all in one. He wasn't responding to any of my letters. Naori turned to give her side of the story. So, I just decided to come in person and meet with him. Hasato calmed down. Sorry, I just know that daimyos are very wicked and self-centered. They might attempt to harm you for showing up unannounced. It's going to be fine, my reputation will carry us through. Naori waved his concern away. True, everyone knows about you and your husband. The man who controlled a tailed beast during the Third Great Ninja War. And you, the One-Eyed Empress. Yutataka recalled the names and feats of the great shinobi. You also have a son, correct? Yes. My sweet son. Naori almost seemed to be skipping ahead as she walked right up to the gates. Sweet. That guy's a monster. Hasato shivered at the memory of being on the receiving end of his predatory gaze. You're telling me? But let's just let her believe he is. Mei said back to the pink-haired medic. The three guards began to follow their Mizukage to the front gates of this temple. They were stopped by tall samurai guards. What are shinobi of hidden mist doing here? Naori stepped forward and asserted herself. I am Naori Uchiha, the 5th Mizukage. I have come to speak with the daimyo of this country. Naori displayed her confidence and authority by pulling the hat from her back and placing it on her head. The guards gasped and looked surprised under their blue armor plating. And Naori Uchiha. That's right, and I am the Mizukage. So the daimyo and I need to speak with each other. Leader to leader. Naori now demanded of the guards who looked nervous. Allow me to go and contact our superior. The left guard said and turned to move. So they waited for the guard to come back, which didn't take long as the samurai hauled ass. When he returned, the man gave a more welcoming smile. Right this way, Mizukage-sama. The daimyo will speak with you. Great. Naori and the group were led through the temple and saw just how deluxe the place was. Then their little tour of the mansion was put to an end as they came face to face with massive double doors. The guard pushed the door open to see the gigantic room filled with riches and country treasures. On the ground was a red carpet which led them to a throne. Sitting on the throne was a feeble-looking man who was up there in age. The man looked out of place in the robes. Is this the daimyo? Of the Bloody Mist? Naori couldn't believe what she was seeing. This guy looked like a complete loser and scrub. How was he sitting on the throne for such a noble position? Mei and Hasato saw Naori's disappointed gaze and had to turn their heads with clear shame. Even Yutatake, who had never met the man before, looked ashamed. What do you want? Even when he tried to be threatening, the man sounded timid. Even though Naori lost great respect for the man in front of her, she still bowed slightly just to keep up a respectful image. Greetings, I am Naori Uchiha and the newly elected Mizukage. I wish to speak with you about our future. Hearing this, he pricked up. I am Nagamo inside. But you said you are the new Mizukage, see correct? The hope coming off the man was clear as sparkling glass. And I heard what happened to your clan, Naori-san. They were killed by Itachi Uchiha. But you are here and the new Mizukage, how? The look of pain-filled sorrow flashed across Naori's face for a quick moment before it was wiped away. Before everything happened, the clan escaped while those who wanted to fight stayed behind to create time for us to escape. A noble sacrifice, I am sorry to hear that. The daimyo gave his sympathy. And we came to the place which made the most sense, all we had to do was fight through this oppression to secure a home. And now here I am. Nagamo nodded. So you killed Yugura, he's dead. Naori nodded while giving the man a strange look. Yes, it was 2 months ago. Yes. Finally. Nagamo jumped from his seat pumping his fist in the air. He even started dancing around his throne with a teary smile on his face. I was begging to think I'd die before he was killed. Naori raised an eyebrow and looked towards the three behind her. Who were also just as confused at the dancing daimyo. I understand Yugura was doing the county wrong, but you seem a little too excited. Nagamo stopped his dancing and sat back in his seat, smile still in place though. Yugura was in simple terms. Bullying me for resources. Not knowing this, the shinobi in the room gained faces of shock at the news. Mei cursed silently to herself. She should have guessed something like this was happening. Maybe if she had rescued the daimyo earlier, she could have gained the upper hand somehow by gaining his favor. What do you mean, Lord Nagamo? Naori asked, needing an answer to such a bland statement. Nagamo took a seat on his throne and attempted to calm himself. Once the war started, I sent a letter to Yugura demanding his presence. He came, but the meeting didn't go as planned. He killed half the guards, destroyed parts of the village, and killed innocents. He nearly killed me and would have if it wasn't for the importance of my position. That is something. Naori couldn't believe it. That one Genjutsu was able to do such a thing. Controlling one person caused a country to walk a path of self-destruction. So for years, I had to supply Yagura with all the things he needed or else he'd come back here and destroy the capital. It pained me greatly, but I was left with no choice. I never thought Yagura's will ran so deep. Mei spoke looking down at her feet. Everyone could see this impacting her greatly, no doubt wishing she had done more in her time as the rebel leader. It's okay, Mei-chan. We are going to make things better here. Naori walked over and hugged Mei tightly. Don't beat yourself up, you are very accomplished and still growing. You are only in your teens with a lot of life left ahead of you. In your teens without a man. Hasato snickered, earning a withering glare from Mei. Hush. And you are also single. Naori sniped Hasato's confidence out of the air, making Mei giggle. Thank you so much. Mei hugged Naori tight and could understand why everyone saw Naori as their second mother. Sorry to interrupt. Nagamo cleared his throat and spoke to grab the others' attention. They all fell back in line and gave the daimyo their full attention. Shall we talk about the future? Ah, yes. Shall I open? Naori asked. Go ahead. After getting the green light, Naori reached into her bag and grabbed a scroll. She then tossed it up to Nagamo who bounced it around before getting a hold of it. Inside the scroll is a detailed report of the things I'd like. It is basically a roadmap for rebuilding the village in the next 5 years. The most important is funding and manpower. Naori said. On a scale from 1 to 5. Our population is 2/5, our military a 3/5, and our economy is 2/5. So basically we're poor, lack hands, and weak. Well shit. Nagamo responded the best way he could. Looking at this roadmap, I can see you have a lot of things you wish to see happen. Oh. Is that a colosseum? And a village flooded with water. The man looked like a child getting excited over new toys. Yes. A good way to gain money is through tourist attractions. But those will come later as I want to build quietly and then surprise the other nations with our might. That is smart, Mizuki-sama. I figure if we tell the world we have finished our war they might try and move in on us. Hasato was once again blown away by the Mizuki's brilliance. Indeed. This is all wonderful and I would be happy to support you. Now that I am not being oppressed anymore, I will definitely be a better leader towards the land I govern. Even better. If Nagamo would support them and make his presence felt, they would be on track to creating a great nation. Great, then can I take some of your guards back to the village to assist with the labor? We also need building supplies, preferably steel, bricks, and any other kinds of metals. Naori hoped she wasn't asking for too much, and then the man said no. Consider it done. Nagamo snapped his fingers. I'll send you a small army today along with the supplies within the week. Naori this time bowed deeply with gratitude followed by the others. Thank you, my lord. Instead of words you carry out your purpose with blades. Leave it to the Anbu, or more like Danzo's root. The nameless protecting peace from the shadows. That is what a true shinobi is. Shisui's words echoed in his mind again. Itachi to this day felt motivated by the passionate display of a shinobi. It was also the day he grew to trust Shisui as they both defeated Danzo's Anbu. Those words became the foundation of his ninja way. It's the code he lived by and the code he'd die by. But the line between shadow and darkness began to blur and he didn't know anymore. His actions on the night of the massacre. Were they the correct thing to do? The blood on his hands, the innocent blood. All for what? To prevent outbreak and war he'd remind himself. Naruto came to mind. He had stormed into the meeting and slapped everyone in the face with a bizarre plan. Was he right or wrong? Itachi wondered how the clan was doing now. He was sure that the current generation of Uchiha no doubt grew to be superior and most likely resembled the children from the Warring States period. Probably even stronger due to having more knowledge and jutsu available at their disposal. The clan thrived in conflict and grew stronger from it. The war must be over by now. Perhaps a visit was in store. Though the idea was trashed seconds later. He'd be swamped as soon as his chakra was felt. Shisui would be more than enough to handle alone, add on top of that Naori and the others. The curiosity inside him needed to be quelled, a part of him wanted to check on his family. If he even deserves to be called that anymore. He had killed his own mother and father, ruined his sister's life, and drove his clan into a war. To protect the peace of the Hidden Leaf village. The village he wasn't welcomed in, the village that saw him as a heartless monster for killing the entire Uchiha clan. Of course it was. I am Itachi, of the Hidden Leaf. The village he loved with everything was threatened to be destroyed. And there wasn't a thing he wouldn't do to see it safe. Itachi looked at the family picture he kept with him. His smiling mother and little sister, his father stone-faced, and him with a light smile. Would things have been different if I went with them? If I had believed a little bit more in the bonds of family and just exactly what it all meant. Itachi folded the paper up and let the moment pass. Things of the past stayed in the past. What was done had already been done and there was nothing that could be done about it now. Now he had a new drive and goal to achieve. Set his younger sister on the right path, which was protecting the leaf, ensuring no harm befell his village, and taking tabs on this criminal organization called the Akatsuki. Naruto appeared back at the arena they had previously been in. Now his clothes were stained with blood and Safai was dripping blood. His eyes picked up Jinkusu finishing his vicious fight with that abnormally large jaguar. Jinkusu had the animal pinned to the ground by Summer Queen and had a victorious smirk on his face. But it wasn't as if he wasn't damaged. His clothes had been torn at certain points, while blood and deep cuts littered his body surely to leave scars. That was amazing. I won't dare forget this fight. Jinkusu turned off his Sharingan and kneeled next to the whimpering beast. Like I said, I want you to come with me. I want you to be my summoning partner. Jinkusu knew the jaguar could understand him. The moment he laid eyes on the beast he could see the intelligence in its rich golden eyes. So be it then. The male voice that came from the jaguar didn't surprise Jinkusu. It growled deeply and hissed at the pain. Okay then, let's make a summoning contract. I can't with your sword in my rib. Jinkusu chuckled. Her name is Summer Queen and she is as sharp as the day I received her. Noticeable. This beast had a sharp tongue. Jinkusu liked it and could see him and his new partner getting along. He warned the beast about the pain to soon come and yanked Summer Queen from his rib. Jinkusu didn't let the pain last as he used a healing jutsu on the dark jaguar. You don't need to heal me, I can regenerate as you know. The jaguar rolled over and stretched. He then looked at Jinkusu with a sharp questioning gaze. How did you stop my flow of chakra during our fight? I could have pushed that sword out and healed, but I wasn't able to. Do this, Jinkusu stood up and smiled proudly. It's my ability. Jinkusu pointed to both of his eyes. Since we are going to be partners, I'll tell you. That dark and corrosive energy of mine was what I call destruction chakra. And as the name suggests, that's what it does. The chakra is able to destroy at a cellular level and even further. This information caused his eyes to widen. So you were able to destroy my chakra pathways with your chakra permanently. Which stopped my healing factor and chakra flowing correctly. I'll say it again, brother. Your Mangekyo Sharingan ability is very frightening. Jinkusu turned to see Naruto landing behind him still in one piece. Haha, says the one with the king of Mangekyos. He laughed as he knew the power Naruto's eyes held. Don't sell yours short. But I do have a question for you. What is it? Naruto pointed to Jinkusu's left eye. Does your left eye come with another ability? Or do you use both eyes like myself? Like you might have suspected, I am a one-trick pony. Unlike some people, I need only eye for my power. For some members of the Uchiha clan. When you awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, there is a different power for both eyes. The right eye could have a power, while the left eye could have another power or just a different version of the original power granted by the Mangekyo. Shisui, Naori, and Mira were the select few Uchiha who needed both their eyes in order for the Mangekyo to function at full power. If the power was great enough on its own, the other eye was unable to have another power. Some saw it as an even trade-off. You had one super powerful ability that on its own was worth just as much as two abilities. Which left one person with only one major world-shifting power to focus on and find the full value of that one ability. We're like then. Leaving Mira and Shisui, the two who both need both eyes. Naruto said. I thought you were like her and used the other eye for fine control of the power. What do you mean, fine control? Causing Naruto to think of a response. Mira uses her right eye to summon Senjin, while the left eye she uses to play God with the ability. She shrinks it down to the point where it's microscopic, expands it as wide as a lake, or controls it like the flame as a mind of its own. I don't know what's more scary, your knowledge or power. Jinkusu responded. When Naruto picked apart your ability in front of you, it was heart-racing and terrifying. How about both? Naruto sent a smirk to his brother. I only know this because we both train the power together. And you two have figured out so much already. I might need you to copy mine. Jinkusu rubbed the head of the jaguar at his leg. And you are? Saturn. Nice to meet you, Saturn, and welcome to the Uchiha clan as one of its summons. We didn't do the contract yet, so hold the formalities. How do we do that? I'm pretty sure it won't work the normal way of using a scroll. Jinkusu correctly summarized. Right, since I don't have a domain of my own. We'll just have to settle for the better option if you ask me, and get a tattoo. Saturn turned to give Jinkusu a sharp-toothed grin. Give me your arm. Jinkusu and Naruto looked skeptical at the suggestion. Relax. I'm not going to bite it off. Saturn rolled his eyes. You humans don't taste good anyway. The fact Saturn ate humans was definitely off-putting and reminded them he was still a wild beast at heart. Saturn looked to focus before he placed his paw on Jinkusu's hand. Jinkusu felt a quick pain that felt like being stuck with a needle. It focused on his hand. Looking at his palm, Jinkusu saw a tilted circle surrounded by rings formed on his hand that glowed purple before dispersing. "That my good summoner is the seal, but you should know my contract is different from other animals." Saturn grinned before turning into smoky black mist and floated into the tattoo on Jinkusu's hand. "There are certain perks to being a lab rat, as humiliating as it may sound. And you've got a shit ton of chakra." "Oh. It's your destruction chakra. Or should I say, ours." "Hey. Leave that stuff alone." Jinkusu shivered at the feeling. Saturn was siphoning off some of his chakra, which was not as fun as it sounded. It was like having your blood drawn for a medical test. "Those scientists wanted to make me some kind of dual weapon to fight alongside whoever I marked. I take your power and use it while I give you nothing." "My chakra network can link with yours and I live off your chakra. But you have a physical body, blood, organs. How can you just turn into smoke?" "Yeah, but chakra slaps science in the face. All the way to my cells, even my biomolecule, chakra holds it all together and brings it to your chakra system for me to live on. So it's our chakra now." "It sounds like they were trying to make you some kind of tailed beast, just without the seals or anything." "Yup, but I'm not as strong as those monsters. And I don't have any power for you to take. I'm just a weapon for you to use." Jinkusu noticed the way Saturn said the last part. He sounded a bit resentful. Not surprising, he spent his entire life on this island, experimented on and repeatedly told had to become a weapon for another. "What is going on?" Naruto asked. "To put it frankly, he's found a home in my chakra cores. Other than that, this is just a regular summoning contract." Jinkusu himself wasn't too sure how to explain the situation himself, and he was sure neither did Saturn. "Interesting. Are you like a Jinchuriki now?" "No, Saturn doesn't have any power I can use. It's the opposite if anything. He can use my power and fight with me. My unique weapon if you'd call it." Humming from Jinkusu's hand was Saturn, whose dark almost faded spot started pulsing with Jinkusu's chakra. "Dude, that's some serious chakra you've got there. No wonder you beat me so easily. Though you really didn't need it." "Chakra isn't everything in a fight," Jinkusu responded. "It is when your mere chakra alone could flatten a village." Naruto corrected him. "Elder Madara just had to release his chakra upon the enemy and they'd die. When you can do that to your opponent without even moving, forming a plan won't matter." "Exactly. An ocean will always have more water than a lake." To the two in front of him, Jinkusu lightly chuckled. "Don't underestimate the weak. Yugura had more chakra than all of us, yet we were never crushed to death. If I've learned anything from war, it's that for every strength, there's a weakness." Naruto saw the error in his ways and felt ashamed at his lack of foresight. "You're right, it's because we were underestimated that we are even alive now. Thank you for showing me that." Jinkusu waved the thanks off with a soft smile. "Relax, you're looking too much into it. I'm here to help you, brother." Saturn sat watching the two clanmates interact. The deep bond they shared was obvious to even a blind man. Something like this didn't happen overnight and was only built upon by countless trials. It was something he had never seen before and made him a bit envious and hopeful. "Now I should warn you." Saturn spoke, drawing their attention to the large black jaguar. "Since you survived and most likely killed a large amount of their animals, they are going to unleash a Shiratadu on you." "Shrine Dragon. I like the name. But it's not a real dragon, is it?" Saturn thought he was going to see some kind of fear in Naruto's eyes or some kind of self-doubt. That wasn't the case as he saw excitement and hope in his eyes. "No, he's not. Just an island-sized snake." "What can he do?" Jinkusu asked. "What can't he do should be the problem. I want to fight him, don't tell me his abilities, I want to find them out for myself," Naruto declared to the shock of Saturn. "Hold on now. Are you sure? This guy has some wonky abilities." Saturn tried to protest, only for Naruto to turn his back and look into the distance. "I wish to test the limits of the Hashirama cells. See how much can be healed with only half the vial." Since gaining the cells, Naruto's overall body has evolved into something superior. His stamina had been increased tremendously and the balance of his yang chakra had finally grown. Naruto could only wonder how much Hashirama himself had. If this was just a part of his cells, what could all of them do for him? So during this battle, he'd fight a little recklessly and go for things he normally wouldn't. There was a special technique he'd been looking to use for a while. He also wanted to show off and hopefully impress Mira. At that moment, Mira appeared from a body flicker. She had a little bit of dirt on her face and clothes, but besides that and smelling like a forest, she was okay. Her face was already set in a smile upon arrival, so she pulled the two boys in for a hug. "I'm glad you are both okay." They hugged her back and double-checked she was okay. They then took time to explain what they were doing while waiting for her. Mira listened carefully and then began giving Saturn head rubs. Shisui soon arrived and they summarized it for him as well, so he wasn't left out of the loop. Well, I have a surprise of my own. Mira looked smug and sent chakra to the back of her hand. What appeared was a simple black feathered bird. Summoning Rini. Humming from a cloud of white smoke was a large bald eagle. Smooth white head and crispy black colored feathers. It landed on Mira's outstretched arm, using its finely sharpened claws to hold on. Greetings, I am Rini. A sophisticated feminine voice came from the mighty eagle. I'm Naruto Uchiha. Ginkusu. Shisui. Saturn. Welcome to the Uchiha clan as one of its summon animals. Naruto announced. And you as well, Saturn. Thank you. Both animals showed humility and dipped their heads to Naruto. And something you should know about Rini is that she can use wind manipulation on an ultimate scale. While also still growing. Mira rubbed Rini's chin with a proud smile. How did you get her to form a contract with you? Shisui asked. I was flying around and Mira-sama just jumped and grabbed me. Wow, Mira, very human of you. Mira blushed. I didn't force her to sign the contract, I just really wanted her to be my summon animal. She did it all on her own and we are all good, right Rini? To which the eagle nodded and rubbed Mira's face. Anyways. Let's try getting away from here before we get separated again. Shisui stepped in, saving Mira from any more torture. Too late. Now you all must face our ultimate beast in a fight for your survival. They looked at the glass box and saw the red-eyed Uzumaki Hinoka smirking at them. You have given us an amazing data, Uchihas, but now you will perish. Using the same sealing jutsu as last time, the team was transferred to the cliffside overlooking the sea. Again, we definitely should have picked a better place to regroup. Shisui reflected on his mistake. It's fine. This time we are all together. Naruto turned and smirked. He activates his Manjutsu Sharingan. His unique ability Spasnalika shone radiantly. He used Kamui and opened a portal to the previous location. Someone go back and quickly capture her before she can get far. I'll go. Shisui rushed through the spiraling portal that closed after him. Now leave the rest to me. Naruto withdrew both Safayu and his gunbai for the battle coming shortly. I'm ready, master. Safayu's excitement was in her voice as she matched Naruto's enthusiasm. The water in front of them erupted in a shower of water. The waves created from the forced explosion were monstrous as they splashed along the rocky cliffside. Amongst the shower soaking their clothes, the Uchiha used chakra on their feet so they could withstand the howling wind. Yup. He's juiced up. Saturn took a couple steps back as he was ready to move any second. Wind manipulation. Nice, a counter to my fire. Naruto grinned widely in anticipation as a fiercer, more feral side of him began showing. It was a nature all Uchiha shared as a mortal battle would approach. His dad was sure to hone his mentality for battle into perspective during training. Making sure he was lethal, efficient, consistent, and ready to dance at any time. They all bore witness to a tremendously sized banded sea snake. That was just the base appearance of the snake, as its scales looked more tough and rugged, its eyes more bloodlust, while those mountain carving fangs showed themselves. Its big blue eyes landed on the strongest chakra signature and hissed threatened. Naruto stared the beast in the eyes directly. Its black slits meet his own black tomo. He could have placed the beast under a Jinjutsu and been done with it. Though he didn't want to win like that, it would be no fun. So he cocked his head, still grinning. The other two got themselves an animal, so I will as well. Mira screamed. He wants to make that his summon. Naruto-sama is a brave young man. Rini came to understand quickly that this group of individuals was very powerful. And being led by such an amazing pillar of strength. The coolest. Mira's tone changed and she began smiling, gazing at Naruto. Well, I'm going to step back and watch this all go down. Jinkusu jumped back several feet to avoid the battle. Which Mira quickly followed. You will not chain me. The beast can speak. Its monstrous voice was deep and booming as it hissed angrily toward the end. I don't wish to chain you, but you will fall under my banner. Naruto made his intentions clear to the beast. He could sympathize with these animals as they all seemed to want freedom. All these animals were being oppressed and held against their will, much like the Uchiha. I will give you freedom, you just need to become my summoner. You are not stronger than me, I don't serve weaklings. Oh? A worm who thinks himself a serpent. If it's strength that you follow, I am the epitome. The snake shot a big ball of water at Naruto, who jumped to avoid the death ball. Where he once was had been destroyed and the cliff crumbled into the ocean. Water manipulation as well. Not too surprised. Though the potency was subpar. I know he can do more. Naruto landed on the ground and spun with his Safayu, which crackled with glowing purple lighting that Naruto flung at the snake. The snake let the crescent blade contact his scales and expected to see a look of helplessness on Naruto's face. That was just a test swing, he didn't put his all in it. That didn't do anything to him as expected, I'll amp things up a notch then. Safaya was attached to a chain along with his gunbai, so Naruto had no fear of losing either one of them in this climate that was steadily increasing to the notice of everyone present. The beast rushed forward and barreled onto the cliff trying to hit Naruto. Naruto evaded nimbly as he flipped away only to lay a punch to its temple that forcibly sent its head back. Naruto didn't finish there as he sent the same attack again rushing toward the snake. Only this time, it was more tense and large enough to scare. The effects were different as it was pushed back and hissed in pain. The sharp lighting helped cut deeper into the scales, causing a mix of shock and pain. I thought I was immune to the elements, is it different since his lighting is purple? Why do you look so surprised? Did that hurt? Naruto mocked. Impudent human. I am perfect. Your elemental attacks won't work on me. It roared and fired a beam of chakra from its mouth. Naruto leaped off the cliff into the water. The snake saw its advantage and went to swallow Naruto, which it did. Only to feel the inside of his mouth be lit aflame and burn vigorously. The pain was so intense, enduring the pain Moriyasurotadu dived several hundred feet into the ocean and opened its mouth. He thought Naruto would come swimming out in a panic for air. However, he was confused when he saw nothing in the ocean. Yasuratadu didn't let this time go to waste as he began healing his mouth and thinking of ways to beat the purple-haired Ichigo. Closing its eyes, he began sensing the water around him and sending out pulses to pick up on any movement or sound. A form of echolocation but juiced up beyond to the point he could sense an entire ocean if he tried hard enough. Yasuratadu named the unique sensing jutsu Meta-Sense. He's not in the ocean at all. How is this even real? Though his jutsu picked up something. It was large and traveling toward his location quickly. He looked up and saw several spinning shuriken as large as him. One of them hit him in the stomach and began to carry him to the seafloor. Back on the surface, Naruto saw blood rise up and he smirked. After using Kamui to escape he traveled into his dimension and exited back on top of the water. He launched this massive shuriken onto Yasuratadu, which was part of a two-step plan. Naruto gathered his lighting chakra that lit up the area like fireworks. He raised his hand and sent it into the clouds where the lighting raced across the clouds and thunder sounded. He was getting ready to use Almighty Imperial Thunder, a more advanced version of the original jutsu. But he looked down and could see a large shadow quickly approaching. The chakra had spiked up and that was never a good sign. Yasuratadu exploded from the depths of the ocean larger and more powerful. Before, he was only 20 meters tall which was a tight squeeze in his tank. But when let loose and able to truly stretch, Yasuratadu grew up to 56 meters. Naruto had to strain his neck to get a full glimpse of Yasuratadu, and even then he was still a giant. Round 2 then. I'm up 1. White chakra gathered around Naruto as he focused and pushed his body further. He began yelling as chakra released from him like a bomb until his imperfect Susanoo was in his place. Robe covered muscle and skin while a helmet shaped like a dragon's head covered the face with a loop of binding still on its head. Its golden eyes flared like fire and the Susanoo screamed a bloody roar shaking the cliffs and causing some of them to be destroyed. They still weren't of equal height as Naruto's Susanoo still looked upward. It was easier and he could definitely deal some real damage now. Inside the diamond in the middle of the forehead. Naruto crossed his arms. I am disappointed with myself. Is this all I can do? How does one get a perfect Susanoo? There's so much I have planned for the Susanoo, but I can't. Naruto wanted to take the simple powerhouse of a jutsu beyond and bring it down in size to fit his body. Or had extra heads and limbs, weapons, or only manifest parts of it. He'd just ask his mom for guidance and see if she knew something he didn't. But that was for later because now he faced a beast. Now, I'll take it easy on you if it's too much. Silence. Yasuratadu hissed. Calling up a literal storm that pushed Naruto around. This caused him to smirk as Naruto knew he could let the snake see everything. Yasuratadu moved faster than his large body would imply, snaked his way around Naruto's Susanoo and began dragging him underwater. Fighting and pulling to try and pull Yasuratadu off served to be futile as its grip was too strong and began cracking parts of the Susanoo. Naruto saw this and narrowed his eyes. Fighting underwater was a hurdle he'd learned to overcome thanks to the Mist Village. He could use the underwater breathing jutsu to still breathe and propel himself with chakra in the water to maneuver faster. But as he was yanked to the seafloor at tremendous speed, Naruto's ear began to pop while still straining to get free. Coming to a decision, Naruto released Susanoo and easily swam through the gaps in the giant snake's body. Now you're mine. Instead of swallowing him this time, his large snake mouth opened and a chaotic ball of chakra began to form. He can shoot raw chakra as well. Just what did they do to him? The ball of chakra rushed quickly toward Naruto unbothered by the increased pressure of the water. Naruto used his Kamui to once again avoid certain death and let the attack clash into the rock behind him. What did he just do? My attack went right through him. For sure Yasuratadu thought Naruto would be as good as dead with that one. He sure does have a lot of tricks, this might take longer than I thought. But if I can keep him underwater I will win no matter what, I'll outlast him. I know what you're thinking, you won't outlast me. I can keep this up all day and night. Naruto appeared in front of him with his right hand aimed at his eye. This right hand of his just so happened to be jumping with electricity, which was quickly rammed into his large eyeball. Isiritadu yanked his giant head back and flailed in slight pain. More from having an arm jammed into his eye than the lighting, which normally would have been a fatal blow. My lighting didn't do anything. I know he has regenerative ability, but still. Deciding to test a theory, Naruto quickly blasted off to the surface of the water while Isiritadu got a hold of himself. Naruto breached the water and was still rising in the air. The sky was still dark and cloudy, which caused him to smirk. He turned in the air and could see the large shadow of Isiritadu coming from the depths of the ocean. From the position they were both in, Naruto would fall right into the snake's hungry mouth. Not this time though. As Naruto raised his right hand into the sky above and smiled. Almighty Imperial Thunder. The next seconds happened too quickly for anyone to follow as they mimicked the speed of lighting itself. It was more akin to an anthem of lighting with how thunderous and devastating the jutsu was. It came rushing down and struck Isiritadu with all its might as the jutsu sent the perfect summon back into the water. The shockwave blew apart the water so much it revealed the floor beneath, showing its power. Damn. And he made that himself. Jinkusu was clearly impressed watching Naruto battle. Mira smirked. She could read Naruto like he was a picture book. His glance in her direction wasn't making it any better. She gave a wink letting him know he was caught. Only making Naruto turn his head and focus up. Naruto looked down as he began plummeting to the ground gracefully. His face was a mask of calmness as the Sharingan looked on at the damage he had inflicted. Not gonna work on me. Naruto was shocked when he saw Isiritadu jump from the water and swallow him again. Inside, Naruto had to stab Safayu into the gums of his enemy. He needed some time to think about what just happened. I didn't think his durability would be so high. I've underestimated his armored scales. No worry, I'm sure if I focus on a particular part of his body, I can crack the armor and hit his actual skin. But he'll never let that happen as he can regenerate along with being so huge and fast. Naruto placed his hands on the ground and began channeling fire nature chakra. He began burning the snake from the inside once again. Or at least, he thought he would. What's going on? Why isn't the fire working? Switching it up, Naruto used lighting, but still got no results as not even the inside of his mouth took damage. How is he immune? Is it just fire and lighting he's immune to? Naruto got an idea now as the fire on his hands turned the ruby red of Senjin. This was the reaction he was looking for as he could feel Isiritadu thrashing outside. He even opened his mouth hoping the water would put out the fire. Naruto used this chance to escape as he let Senjin burn. Naruto once again had to blast himself to the top and breathe in the fresh air. This is where Isiritadu exploded from the water again and Naruto narrowed his eyes. He took a couple of deep breaths to calm down from his quickly rising annoyance. What's going on with your body? My jutsu have no effect on you. Besides that new flame. Isiritadu gave off what was a smirk for a snake. You're already thinking about it. You're immune to elemental jutsu. It wasn't a question anymore. It was a statement Naruto couldn't believe. That's right, I don't need to fear any elemental jutsu, no matter how powerful it may be. That was a light in a field of darkness for Naruto. So he's not immune to chakra itself, just elemental manipulation. Easy enough to deal with, just use physical attacks, raw chakra, or shape manipulation based jutsu. The Susanoo came back to life around Naruto in its humanoid appearance. Though the Susanoo didn't meet the height of Isiritadu, its power could definitely bring him down to size. You've done well to last this long, you're the first to ever push me so hard. The great snake gave its respect to Naruto. While I can't say the same for you, I must admit you are proving to be a worthy challenge for this Uchiha. Naruto also paid his respect. During the battle, the two come to respect the other power in one way or the other. Though it was still a battle for supremacy over the others. And again, the intense battle kicked off. Shisui exited the portal and appeared back in the arena. He body flickered into the stands and to the announcement booth where Hinoka used to be. Shisui placed his hand on the wall and used body flicker again, just more controlled as it allowed him to simply phase through the wall like a ghost. He could sense Hinoka and lowered his chakra quickly so she didn't catch on to him. As a former Anbu member, trailing someone without being caught was like child's play for him. The key was to look with your chakra and not your eyes. So that's what he did, being sure to stay several rooms behind Hinoka as they walked through the empty white halls. Shisui was beginning to hear the sounds of animals and the faintest sounds of people speaking. Shisui leaned around the corner and lightly peered his head to gaze into the room. It was a mad scientist's wet dream. Machines all over the place with big screens and large tablets. There were tubes with other animals he'd never seen before. Small vials of blood were being tested and mixed into other containers. It's not looking too good outside, at this rate he's going to lose. Don't speak it into existence. There is still a chance that Uchiha will lose. Naruto, just what have you gotten yourself into this time? Shisui thought, looking at the screen showing the live fight taking place. He scoped the room out looking for red hair and saw her looking nervous as bitter fingernails. Now's my chance, she's distracted. Shisui moved from around the corner and used his unmatched speed to quickly enter the room. He drew his tanto and chopped the scientist in the back of their heads. Quickly doing this he managed to grab Hinoka by surprise, who turned around startled. Bursting from behind her back were 3 golden chains waving around in the air. They lashed out toward Shisui, who nimbly dodged the chains, grabbed Hinoka by her throat and raised her into the air. Quickly locking eyes with her, Shisui placed the girl in a Sharingan Genjutsu. Her head dropped and her eyes shut completely and she was forcefully put into unconsciousness. Shisui looked at the bodies on the ground. The animals in the containers. I'll quickly round these guys up and head back. We can come take a look at everything later. A swirling portal like a vortex opened on a tree branch. Obito stepped down onto the branch, concealing his chakra as much as possible. This was a stealth operation to gather intelligence and see what happened to his puppet. Around 2 months ago his connection to Yagura had been snapped. Which meant someone had broken the Genjutsu over him or death had finally claimed the Jinchuriki. Things had been busy for him and he hadn't found a time to come and see what happened. It also didn't bother him too much as the things going on in the mist were just little side projects. He had gotten everything he needed from the village. Now that he was free from training, Obito took the time to gaze upon the bustling village. Only having one eye, it was still possible for Obito to take in what was truly going on in the village. Everyone was doing something. Nobody was lazing around or moping. Even the children could be seen helping in the rebuilding of the Mist Village. Obito was amazed, to say the least, that these people had all come together to rebuild their war-torn country. 2 months ago, there was a war going on for years. They had battled to the death for years. And? Now they just decided to move on. Let bygones be bygones. It was all a lie. Obito knew it, these people all wore masks like him. His mask was both physical and metaphorical in all its orange glory. His hair was long and wild and unkempt like Madara, his teacher. They work together now, but when this is all over, will they hold hands? Obito reminded himself to come back in a couple of years and see if they could truly overcome their differences. Though, if they did or didn't, they would all have the life they wanted in the dream world. But Obito wanted a closer look at the village. So using Kamui again, Obito phased in and out of the world as he quickly traveled down to the village. He placed a Genjutsu on himself to appear like a regular bystander. Just an average Joe. It might have been risky, since the Genjutsu on him could be broken or seen through by someone with a Taijutsu. Still, they'd have to be strong enough to pierce a Genjutsu by him. An impossible task since he knew full well that nobody in the nations or world could touch him. Obito passed people on the streets, working men and women. He wanted to know who killed Yagura and just how the massive turnaround came to be. First, he'd snoop around and see what the civilian would have to say, and then he'd go and ask the shinobi. Obito put his plan into action and moved to pick up a large stack of bricks. Hey. Big man over here, huh? Obito turned to the sweating men grinning at him. So playing the part, Obito gave a cheeky grin. Well, you don't go through a war and come out the same person. For his comment, he got a chorus of amens around him. One man pulled out a golden flask and took a sip. I'll drink to that. You know, it might be a little morbid to say. But I think this war might have been good for us. In some ways. I don't think the village has even been unified as it is now. You're right, it makes our reason for fighting feel childish. Just because someone had a bloodline we went to war. Obito listened, surprised at the honesty coming from these men right now. Had he made the village stronger? Were they not wearing masks? Indeed, I still feel horrible though. Yes, but we need to look at the culprit of all this. What did Uchiha put that Genjutsu on the third? Obito would have dropped his bag had he been a lesser man. It felt like the bag of bricks hit him in the face with how heavy and dirty this revolution was. How did they know? Surely Ao wasn't good enough to determine it was Uchiha who activated the Genjutsu. Obito felt a little troubled by the situation. Now this called for some digging for a large rabbit hole that he'd dive headfirst into. Obito walked the bricks over into another pile and laid them down, to which he moved into a dark alley unseen and faded into the shadows. He came from another alley in the shinobi district of the village. There were more chakra signatures around and active signs of shinobi being spotted. They were also rebuilding the village with things being a lot quicker with chakra and increased stamina. Some of them also jumped to the civilian district and assisted and sped up the processes of everything. His eyes widened when he saw a familiar face walking through the village gates. The shinobi lived at the front of the village to combat any danger quickly and stop the risk of their civilians being killed. It all makes sense now, elder sister Naori defeated Yugura and has become the Mizukage. Obito didn't even realize he had addressed Naori so formally. She was the nicest person he'd ever met in his life. She had helped him as a kid when he just lived with his grandma. Whenever she wasn't busy with her own life, she'd come and train him. They'd talk and she went on and on about how she liked Naka but didn't know how to admit it. While he'd tell her about Rin and how much he hated Kakashi for stealing her attention. Naori was a strong female lead in his younger years. Before there was Kushina, there was Naori. When the rest of the clan picked on him, saying he was an embarrassment, Naori would scold the others about treating their younger brother so cruelly. She'd pick him up by the hand and give a comforting smile. Every time, it always made him feel safe and cared for. This was troublesome. Naori and most likely the rest of the Uchiha clan had come to the Mist Village. But his resolve quickly came back to him. Any attachments he had for the clan or anyone had long since been cut. This changes nothing, I will still become the savior of this world and bring everlasting peace. Where everyone can be happy and live their lives how they want. This is a reality I will craft. All his questions now answered, Obito saw no more reason to be here. With his Sharingan active, he faded away allowing the smiling Naori to be the last thing he saw. The ocean waters were forced to suffer the battle of the two giant beasts duking it out. What had once been a standstill battle had now turned into a runaway fight, with the Uchiha finally cooking up a plan. The snake was picked up from the water and forcefully shoved into the cliffside, causing a massive landslide of rocks and debris. Isuratadu found its face gripped and forced to eat the rocks as his face slid alongside the cliff face. What happened all of a sudden? We were even 30 minutes ago and now he's completely dominating me. Unbeckoning to the great snake, Naruto had devised a plan to in fact take him down. So he no longer fought to figure him out and instead was now showing him his full power. Isuratadu used the rest of his body to slither up Naruto's Susanoo and squeeze immensely. With the force he was using, Isuratadu could have crushed a mountain with his grip strength. Good. He's getting desperate, just a little more. Naruto channeled even more chakra to the Susanoo uncaring of any damage he'd do to his body. This caused an immediate reaction as Naruto and his Susanoo roared in rhythm with each other as their battle cries shook everyone to their bones and caused their skin to break with stingy goosebumps. The mighty Susanoo grew an extra face from the back of its head and an extra set of arms grew from the joints of the already existing arms. With the power of 4 arms, Naruto easily pried the giant snake off him. Going the extra mile, Naruto saw fit to raise Isuratadu over his head and toss him into the water like he was throwing a caught fish back into the ocean. Naruto began laughing inside the diamond mark on the Susanoo's forehead as it sounded the slightest bit unhinged and downright psychopathic. From the side, Mira and Jinkusu shivered at the display. I don't think I've ever seen him so riled up like this. Jinkusu commented. I know, he normally only gets like this when he does something thought impossible or creates something unreal. Mira added. They both knew the fight was coming to a close pretty soon and what would happen next was anyone's guess. Naruto looked down on Isuratadu now that he had calmed down from his fit of joyous laughter. It was so amazing to have finally achieved something you worked to death for. It produced a high like no other when you finally broke down the wall blocking all your progress. It was fun while it lasted and I thank you for allowing me to grow. But now it's time to give it up. Isuratadu felt angered and he began to rise from the water slowly with his blue slitted eyes glowing deathly. I hope you've lived a good life because it ends here. From his stomach a blue glow shined and it slowly traveled all the way up from his body until reaching his mouth. Naruto only grinned and gripped the gunbai in his hand. Another attack, just give it up already. You can't defeat me. Don't underestimate the Shrine Dragon. Scorched life. In that quick moment, Naruto controlled the Susanoo to bring up its empty left hand. He willed the Avatar to summon his gunbai in order to counter the attack. The white flame-covered gunbai pulsed rapidly and absorbed the blast of chakra. Isuratatu's eyes grew wide with shock and healthy amounts of fear. His heart pounded like it would slide out of his body and his blood rushed frantically inside his body. Uchiha reflection. With just 2 words being spoken. The attack previously launched at Naruto was now being sent back to Isuratadu with double the power. Isuratatu's life began flashing before his eyes as he observed all the time he spent locked away and being tested on. He even remembered the time Hinoka would dive into his tank without fear and rub the front of his nose with a kind smile. If he was to die now his 2 regrets would be not seeing the world and not giving Hinoka a ride through the sea with him. Naruto slowly put the gunbai down and grinned the entire time. He saw the monster of a snake lying motionless in the ocean. The Susanoo took big steps on top of the water until he completely stood over the defeated snake, slowly healing its wounds. Naruto let the Susanoo go and he dropped onto the body of Isuratadu. He walked along its body and stared down with conviction behind his patterned eyes. I won. The snake didn't even have the energy to mount a comeback and instead narrowed his eyes. I asked you before and you refused. Now you don't have a choice. Make a contract with me and become my summon animal, Usiritadu. Instead of seeing a brat this time, Usiritadu saw a strong shinobi with tremendous power. A boy whose presence would cause the world to quake and men to falter. It was incredible, a future where he followed Naruto into a new age where he'd grow to become stronger and consume the world with his presence. I'm not going to subjugate you and force you into work or anything like that. I just ask you to protect my family and nation and follow me into a new age. Naruto spoke with his heart and was honest. He had no ulterior motives and just wanted to have another powerful ally he could call upon. Fine, you win. I'll become your summoner. Usiritadu finally gave the answer Naruto wanted to hear, causing him to smirk in victory. Alright, let's make the contract. Usiritatu's body began shrinking in on itself as Naruto now stood on the water and the once giant snake had gone back to a normal-sized sea snake. Naruto looked only slightly shaken as he was not expecting that, but welcomed the normal-sized snake. He finally deactivated his Sharingan, returning his eyes to normal, but still on guard in case Usiritadu went back on his word. Let me see your wrist. Naruto placed his wrist out but still looked suspicious of the small snake. I'm not going to inject you with venom, so relax, the fight's over, I lost. I've seen a last stand before. Naruto quickly replied. Just put your wrist out. Naruto did it and watched as Usiritadu opened his mouth and latched onto Naruto's wrist. It was just a quick bite but long enough for Usiritadu to think about injecting his venom into Naruto. But upon seeing how Naruto didn't flinch or make any complaint about the bite and was instead paying sharp attention to him to be ready for anything he might pull. Usiritadu let go and saw black ink wrap around Naruto's wrist and fall into the palm of his hand where the ink sealing marks had become one in the center of his hand. I don't use Sage Chakra like other natural creatures, so don't be expecting anything like that. I also don't have any realm tied to me, so I can't claim a domain as mine. Small factors. This threw Usiritadu for a loop. Not all summoning creators possessed a Sage mode tied to them. But all had a special area in the world that connected to them specifically. Claim the world as your domain. Find a place in the sea that has an abundance of natural chakra. Claim it and devour the world, Shrine Dragon. Naruto finished smirking at the snake curled around his arm. Naruto-kun. He turned and caught the flying girl. That was amazing, you need to teach me how to summon the Susanoo. They shared a smile for each other as Mira locked her legs behind Naruto. Why, of course, I can't have you being weak. I know. I'll become stronger than you and brother Jin in no time. Doubt it, but it's nice to set tall goals. Naruto teased with a grin Mira normally had. Nice fighting, brother. I try. So where did the snake go? Mira asked, looking around for it. That is when Usiritadu poked his head from behind Naruto's shoulder. I am here. Oh, weren't you just the cutest of snakes? Mira rubbed his head. Usiritadu moved to be opposite of Mira and flicked his tongue out at her. Mira was about to complain until they felt Shisui pulse his chakra from the cliff, calling them all back. Let's get back to land, I am sure Shisui is ready to go. Coming back to land, the group saw Shisui waiting for them back at the stadium holding a redhead girl in his arms. Glad you are all okay. Everything seems to be under control now and it's time we mark this land as our and return to the village. Hinoka. Usiritadu yelled in a panic and leaped off Naruto's body onto the ground. He slithered up Shisui's leg and fell onto Hinoka's chest. His tongue flicked out and licked at the girl's skin, checking to see if she was okay. She's okay, I just have her in a genjutsu. Shisui calmed the snake's worries with an easy smile. Release her. Usiritadu turned and ordered Shisui with a glare. Not yet, she may try and attack us when she wakes. No, she won't, just undo this genjutsu. Naruto wondered about something. Why doesn't he attempt to break her out? Does he not know how? Everyone else came to the same conclusion as Naruto. Since he was a mere lab rat and spent his whole life trapped within the seals of an island. Usiritadu was still rather naive and most likely a child. It's fine, elder brother, you can wake her up. And me and Usiritadu have formed a summoning pact. Naruto showed his summoning tattoo off to Shisui, who was surprised. So that's what you were after? Crafty fox. Shisui grinned while chuckling. He released the genjutsu on Hinoka and watched her eyes flutter open slowly. Hinoka. Are you okay? Usiritadu asked with worry thick in his tone. She recognized him and smiled. Ah, why have you shrunk? Did you show those Uchiha your might and defeat them? I knew you would win. Usiritadu lowered his eyes and felt ashamed of himself. He was going to tell Hinoka he lost and was now in a contract with the Uchiha who beat him. He fought well and showed me his mettle. Even managed to push me past my limit. You can be proud of his power. Naruto's voice caused Hinoka to look his way and she frowned. She then turned to see Shisui was the one holding her up and she sighed. So we lost. What a sad tale. We can talk more about it to the Mizukage. We are taking you back to our village and making this island ours. Shisui sternly told the girl who looked heartbroken. Her life's work was about to be taken away from her. All the sleepless nights and blood she spent in the place would soon be destroyed. What was worse was that she was a Uzumaki and once they figured it out they'd force her to sire more Uzumaki. A horrible fate awaited her and there was nothing she could do about it. You don't have to think that way. Jinkusu raised an eyebrow toward the girl. Or Mizukage isn't cruel or wicked and you won't be forced into anything. They all knew what was most likely going on in her head as it was written all over her face. Yes, though this little testing facility definitely won't survive. Shisui said. You will see once you meet her. I'm sure you love her like everyone else. Team Shisui had made it back to the village with safe travels. It was thanks to Yasiratadu who had been kind enough to bring them across the ocean and back to the village for faster travel. The ship crew had been given a new boat thanks to Hinoka as she often made trips back to land for small things. While on the trip, Hinoka was semi-interrogated on what she was doing on the island. The big news had come when they asked if she was a pure-blooded Uzumaki. So Naruto had told the girl that sometime in the future they'd be taking her back to the home village of the Uzumaki. She hadn't been too happy about that choice, but she really didn't have a choice as all three Uchiha had stared at her intensely. Once coming to land, they ran back to the village and carefully traveled through the mist. And now they were standing in front of the fifth Mizukage, Naori Uchiha, who had a surprised look on her beautiful face. That is some fancy turn of events I must say. Naori finally processed everything she was told. I didn't think something like this would happen, I'd have sent some more people if I knew. Well, it all worked out Mizukage-sama, so no harm done. Shisui smiled wide. Naori returned it with glee. Indeed it did, you managed to get 3 powerful summoning contracts and retrieve an Uzumaki. And you've all grown stronger. I couldn't be happier. Her words caused the team to smile at the praise. Now Hinoka, I don't plan to do anything criminal to you, but I do ask if we can receive your help in making the village stronger. Hinoka was surprised but remained stoic. I don't know how I can help, I am not a fighter and can only make 3 chakra chains. The young girl looked sad in just a bit. Nonsense, you are a genius. Naori corrected smiling. What young girl your age has worked on the things you have? You're a seal master and a brilliant scientist. Naori praised the girl who looked rather embarrassed at the words. Why you don't have to spare my feelings. Hinoka played with the bottom of her dress as her cheeks became red. Naori chuckled. Can I count on your help in the future? She asked once again. Hinoka pondered on the idea for a moment. I don't have anywhere else to go. I could go back to the island, but it's under the control of this village anyway. I'd definitely be kidnapped if I just wandered the world, I truly have no other options. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad, it was a rebuilding village with a very kind leader. Yes, Mizukage-sama. Fantastic. Naori cheered. You are all dismissed, but Mira-chan, do you mind showing Hinoka a nice hotel to stay in for a bit? You can count on me. After that, they all left Naori to her duties which involved deciding what needed rebuilding first and how to budget their money. Okay Naruto-kun, I'll see you later. Mira hugged Naruto and pecked him on the cheek. Alright, mind bringing back some food? Do you even have to ask? She laughed walking off. Well I'll see you brother, I'm going to relax. Jinkusu fist bumped Naruto and turned to leave. Does that have anything to do with Sister Hikawa? Naruto gave Jinkusu's back a grin. It does. I'll be busy for the rest of the day. You kids. Shisui laughed while walking next to him. Like you're not about to go see one of your girls. Naruto gave him a raised eyebrow. I'm going to be doing more than just seeing them. Shisui laughed more and patted Naruto's shoulder. You'll understand one day. I understand now. Oh well, see ya. He flashed away, not to be seen for hours. Naruto smiled softly and shook his head. His life so far had been a rollercoaster of a ride. Filled with trials and he knew it'd be so many more. No matter the obstacle or trials, Naruto would face it head-on with everything he had. Uchiha would rise again. Kakashi Pav. Why? It was just supposed to be a regular escort mission. Now I am crossing swings with Zabuza Mamachi, a powerful rogue ninja who killed many shinobi in gruesome ways. Chopping heads off, cleaving apart bodies, or slowly inflicting big slashes across the body with his massive sword. Yeah, Zabuza was strong. I'd give him that. But he couldn't beat me. Our 2 weapons clanged against each other again. My kunai slid down the edge of the legendary weapon. Kubikira Bacho. I used my left hand which was free and directed Zabuza's hand into the mud where it would get stuck for a couple of seconds. It worked, but Zabuza proved his worth. He gave me a headbutt which was completely unexpected. Going further and even spit in my face. I couldn't close my eyes or look away, a lesson I learned from my own sensei. That didn't mean I wasn't surprised as Zabuza punched me straight in the chest. It hurt. Zabuza was bigger than me and I was learning his build wasn't for show. However, you don't train with Might Guy and not gain anything to show for it. If Zabuza wanted to use Taijutsu I was all for it. So I reacted the moment he hit me, a counter blow. Which was followed by me landing multiple blows through his thick guard. I had to push my Sharingan's ability to predict moves which would allow me to not be hit in exchange. I dropped low only to meet Zabuza's knee. But I caught it and managed to shove it back into the ground. My eyes widened as I sensed someone behind me and saw another Zabuza behind me. I gave up on counter-attacking and used subsuition to evade being cut along my back. Okay, maybe he could. I was watching him the whole time. We were moving so fast that I was sure my genin couldn't see anything. And through this exchange, I know for sure Zabuza didn't use hand signs. Both his hands were occupied on his handle or punching me. Ahaha, spooked. Zabuza questioned me with a smirk. I didn't know you could use jutsu without hand signs. I had figured out what he did. Clever. No doubt about it, Zabuza was powerful. And, nothing too impressive. Kakashi of the Sharingan should be able to keep up. He sure had a lot to say. His talk was nothing I hadn't heard before. There was just one problem, I'm not the same man I used to be. For years I had been slacking on my training doing only the bare minimum just to stay in shape. And boy did I regret it now. Zabuza stood in front of me without an ounce of fear or hesitation. I used to stand like that. I was a bit envious of him, I'll say it. Zabuza was waking something within me, I could feel it. Through my bones, my veins, my chakra point, and my heart. I was feeling good. I was finally knocking the dust off my shoulders that had built up and weighted me down over the years. Okay, let's get serious here. I rolled my neck and cracked some of my bones. Be ready to die. For a long time. We moved off to engage again. I performed much better, but still not good enough. Zabuza wasn't having any trouble dealing with my attacks. Or at least Arkanjutsu. I spun around him and readied my arm to swing for his neck. All he did was flatten out his blade and my kunai bounced off. Good thing I had another arm as this one was already halfway to Zabuza's face. The bandaged man moved his head. The Kubikirabacho straightened and cut me along the chest. There was pain nothing to mind numbing as I was able to fight past it and jump back. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. I released a giant ball of fire towards Zabuza who laughed mockingly and easily cut the ball in half. Fire chain prison. The two balls split into chains and wrapped around Zabuza's body, coiling around him like a snake strangling its prey. I cloaked my kunai in lightning and tossed it at Zabuza with pinpoint accuracy. Only for the man to surprise me by somehow being able to throw up his blade with just his wrist and hand. It blocked my kunai but not without damage. Several cracks spread along the blade and Zabuza broke free seconds later and rushed toward me again. Earth style. Mud wave jutsu. My hands were deep in the dirt turning the ground Zabuza ran on to become mud. But Zabuza was like a mad demon as he rushed through the mud with his bloodlust being visible at this point. You've gone soft Kakashi. Zabuza slashed right through me like I wasn't even there, which was true. It was a lighting clone that shocked the man with high waves of electricity. So much so it could kill a man as I charged it with as much potency as the electric chair. But his screams became mad laughter. My god, this man was a demon. I felt sorry for hell whenever he died. We didn't say anything and just started fighting again. I couldn't keep doing this for long though, my stamina was draining and I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep fighting this madman. Like I thought, my stamina became my enemy. Zabuza was also crafty, he lured me into the water and I fell right into his trap. A clone of the man rose from the water and trapped me in a water prison. You three get out of here. You can't win. Take the client and get as far away as you can. I yelled to my three genin who were visibly frightened. Menma Uzumaki. Satsuki Uchiha. Sakura Haruno. The three students didn't get along very well. But hopefully, they could get along this once and run away together. No way sensei. Never abandon a comrade, isn't that what you said? The spiky-haired blonde shouted back to me. Damn. Why did he have to go and use my words against me? I don't run and I don't quit. I'll save you and beat this guy into the ground. His words were tough as steel, but he wasn't. Menma was just a boy with no real talent for being a shinobi besides his strong mind and unwavering determination. He wasn't very smart and often goofed off. Still, Menma was a shinobi with a bright future ahead of him. I could see it in his eyes. He believed himself to be the best. Menma had potential and he was hungry. Two deadly combinations that created many monsters around the shinobi world. I didn't want to be the reason such a hungry young shinobi died, not again. I'd lost many comrades under my lead and I didn't want to add 3 more. Menma was important to me. He was my sensei's legacy and I didn't want that legacy to be wasted. Just run, he can't chase you and hold me at the same time. Just sit tight sensei, we got this. No. He was too charismatic. Satsuki fell into stance and I knew if Naruto fought so would Satsuki. Sakura was the only one who listened as she and Tazuna had moved several feet away from the battle. Zabuza released a laugh, a slow, demonic, mirthful chuckle. You think being a shinobi is fun in games? Just because you wear that headband, you think you're a killer? You ain't shit. When I was your age, I had already killed hundreds. He was right. They were young kids who hadn't been through what Zabuza and I had. Though I couldn't say they were innocent. Satsuki watched her whole family die over 1,000 times. Menma was an outcast who had been subjected to hatred since he could remember. They both already knew of the stain humans left on the world. I don't even know your names. You're not even in my ninja book. When death doesn't faze you and the smell of rotting corpses is refreshing, maybe I'll say you're a ninja. Zabuza released his bloodlust on the three. Let me show you what death is. Zabuza fell into the mist, leaving my team surprised. Oh man, he's gone again. Menma looked around and strained his eyes. Only for Zabuza's foot to send him flying. Satsuki looked to be thinking. And I was glad she used that big brain. She was either thinking of ways to retreat or help Menma. Her actions ended up with Zabuza holding her by the throat in the air. What did she think shuriken and leaping from the sky would do? Satsuki had a lot of growing to do. Menma called for him. But another water clone of Zabuza stood over him. Poor boy, Menma was on the ground trembling in fear. He turned on his hand and looked ready to run. Only to falter as he fell onto his injured hand. It was the same hand he stabbed himself in to release poison. Fool. Zabuza insulted the charging boy who was only screaming and yelling. Like kicking trash from the ground, Zabuza tossed Menma back. Listen you eyebrowless freak. Menma chipped back. It seemed to anger Zabuza as he shook. It was pretty funny as Zabuza indeed didn't have eyebrows. Put this in your bingo book, the ninja that will become the Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves. Never backs down. Aw, I just got chills from his words. And so did the others from what I can see. Sakura, who swore Menma was an ugly idiot. But there she was blushing red like a tomato, while Satsuki smirked. Big talk from such a little man. Zabuza chortled in amusement. Zabuza, stop playing games. This is between me and you. I know who you are. I told him. Oh, so I was marked in your book too. What a great feeling. Zabuza smiled deathly at me. Do you know about our graduation exam? And? We had a graduation too. Menma said. Not that big a deal. I am from the Hidden Mist Village, also known as the Bloody Mist. For my graduation, I killed all my classmates. Imagine, a young ninja you knew for your entire life. You talked together, ate together, laughed together. Right when things are looking up, it's time to graduate. I knew his story. 10 years ago, a young evil approached the school. A boy not even a shinobi. Killed over 100 other students without hesitation or mercy. Zabuza just stood there, his form now becoming rigid and silent. His toned body was on full display as he laid out all his sins. Everyone was silent and nobody even breathed. The cold howling wind was the only nose that dared speak. It felt so good. The world gained sound and motion again as Zabuza moved to finish the job. Menma didn't stand a chance as he was punched away, while Sasuke took an elbow to the rib, knocking him to the ground. Zabuza delivered another elbow smash to her gut, causing Satsuki to scream in pain. You're nothing, girl. Zabuza stomped his foot onto Satsuki's chest. Leave her alone, you no-eyebrowed rat. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Menma summoned his solo army and surrounded Zabuza, who didn't look fazed, but I knew he was impressed. All the clones popped into smoke and left the area covered in white smoke. Until it was dispelled by a gust, no doubt Zabuza swinging that head cleaver around. Only to be shocked when that wasn't the case. Zabuza hadn't moved, or his clone hadn't moved. The real Zabuza was still holding me captive. Standing there was a young teen. A kid roughly 15 if I had to guess. He was just a couple of feet away from Zabuza holding a war fan. Their back was straight and their chin raised high. They peered at Zabuza through jet black eyes almost identical to Satsuki, but yet completely different at the same time. His eyes looked so haunting and deathly, as if just holding eye contact with him would suck you into his endless darkness. I couldn't shake the feeling I was getting from this kid. His eyes shifted to me briefly and he looked disgusted at the sight of me. He turned back to Zabuza and never once looked to be off guard. His hair was a familiar shade of purple, a midnight purple mixed with inky black. Their skin was slightly pale and body layered in muscle through their colored black top. My god, their chakra was massive. It seemed endless just like Menma's, and their aura was pure power and confidence, unlike anything I had ever seen. What did he think of himself? His presence demanded authority and awe. I gained a strong sense of fear all of a sudden. The boy stepped forward, closer to Zabuza and me. Zabuza. Their voice came out colder than Arctic winds. His eyes looked completely bored and uninterested. And who are you? Even Zabuza looked shaken, just a bit. I could see and feel his real body tense. They didn't say anything. Instead, he pulled two katanas from his back. The boy was dressed for war, in all black and a face carved from stone. It was oddly familiar and it scratched. In the back of my mind. Your enemy. And the rest was just blades doing battle. Sparks lit the area and the occasional sound of a grunt. Zabuza released me and quickly abandoned me. He ran to land and did battle with the boy, easily fending off his attacks. In just seconds, Zabuza was plastered on the ground with a sword pointed at his neck. He growled in anger and attempted to move. His shoulder was pierced by a blade. That's when 3 ice needles rose from inside Zabuza's skin sticking out from his neck. His body went limp and all movements fell to a halt. Then Pav. That came from inside his skin. Was it planted? Naruto observed the ice needles. It wasn't Songai since he was back in the village, and so was Esdeath. So there was another Yuki alive or something else Naruto didn't know about. Naruto turned his head to see Kakashi coming back to land. He looked on edge and prepared to fight if he must. Naruto's eyes saw the mismatched eyes looking back. Kakashi possessed a Sharingan, his clan bloodline. And he dare lose. He wanted nothing more than to rip the eye from Kakashi as it didn't belong to him. And just what are you doing? Menma shouted. Naruto turned and took in the bright ninja. He wore full orange and blue. His hair was an electric yellow and his eyes a sparkling blue. At the moment, his face was twisted into a sneer. You think you can just come in and take over our fight? Hell no. If you want a fight I'll give you a fight. Menma summoned more shadow clones and rushed at Naruto intent to give him a fight. Menma stop. Naruto easily evaded every hit from the army of clones. He sent them to the afterlife with just a quick strike of his blades that moved through the air with little resistance. Naruto's blades flashed and became nothing but a blur as they cleaved apart Menma's clones. Until they were face to face. It only lasted for a second as Menma was sent flying into a tree. I'm not here to fight you, Leaf Ninja. Naruto tried, but very small hints of venom escaped. Okay, he doesn't like us. Noted. Kakashi was able to pick up on the restrained venom. He had heard the same tone from enemy ninja long ago. That is when Kakashi was able to take a look at his headband. Mist. He was from the Mist Village. Naruto was about to say something, but felt that lurking presence made itself known. He looked at Zabuza's body and saw a familiar uniform. I am a Mist Hunter ninja sent with my comrade to capture and eliminate Zabuza. Their voice were soft and feminine. Kakashi looked at Naruto's face to see if it was true or if he could read anything. But he picked up nothing. Naruto's face was impassive. Naruto and the Hunter Ninja shared a conversation with their eyes. A conversation that ended in the Hunter Ninja's demise, unfortunately. They just didn't know it yet. She's right, you made our job easier. And with that. Blair. The shout came from Satsuki. She drew all their attention as her face was a mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, pain, grief, and despair. Until the warning emotion settled into one powerful feeling. Hate. I know you. How could I forget, Naruto Uchiha? Kakashi now knew who this Mist Shinobi was. Naruto was the son of Naka and Naori Uchiha, a Uchiha prodigy who looked to possess more potential than even Itachi or anyone before him. Naruto's face displayed just a couple of emotions in a matter of seconds. He looked slightly happy, sad, and guilty. I see you're a traitor to the very end, huh, going even further and deserting the village to join another. Satsuki yelled in pure hatred no one had ever seen before. But what am I surprised about? You're nothing but lying scum who abandoned their own blood. She rushed at Naruto with a kunai and a freshly awakened Sharingan with one spinning Tomo. Satsuki, I'm so sorry. Naruto's voice sounded so heavy and burdened with guilt in his own mind. And his eyes conveyed that message to Satsuki alone. Naruto grabbed her wrist and twisted it so the kunai would drop from her hand. Naruto leaned in close to whisper into Satsuki's ear. I'll save you. The words seemed to ignite her hatred even more as she screamed in his face. Naruto let her go and chopped her in the neck. He watched as her body dropped onto the ground as if she were a puppet losing its strings. He wanted to catch her and gently drop her. But Kakashi would see he had a weakness and might potentially exploit it. So he remained passive and looked unbothered by her outrage and hate-driven words. Satsuki. Sakura yelled, shaking in front of Tazuna the bridge builder. Through all of this, Naruto turned to see Zabuza and the Hunter Ninja had successfully vanished. On his order that was. The Hunter Ninja was under his Genjutsu. Naruto didn't say anything else and just leaped into the trees. Satsuki dropped to her knees and smashed the ground beneath her in pure hot anger. Hot tears slid down Satsuki's face and her chakra wafted off her like storm winds. That bastard. Who does he think he is? Menma clenched his fist. Kakashi watched his two students visibly vent their frustrations. He placed his hand on Menma's head. There are mysterious people in this world who do things that defy meaning. Out and about, kids your age or even stronger than me. Right when Menma seemed to accept the answer, he scowled and turned his head. What are we doing then? How could we be so powerless? I trained so hard. Menma's expression fell, and they all could feel his depression and helplessness at the situation. To evade this feeling, it's the entire reason I trained. Kakashi moved his hand to Menma's shoulder this time. As shinobi, the things we come across are never easy. Kakashi paused and raised his voice so all three kids could hear what he had to say. Save your emotions, your rage, sorrow, and determination for your next enemy. Their sensei finished with an eye smile, reassuring them all would be well. Sakura watched from a distance, feeling so out of place. Her two teammates seemed to have had hard lives, and even her sensei. While she didn't, her life was a luxury. I feel so out of place. They are all so driven and determined. They have goals for being shinobi. Satsuki wanted to avenge her clan and retain Uchiha's pride. Menma wanted to become the Hokage. Well I have nothing. Izuna laughed. Alright, to make up for all the trouble I caused. I'll let you bunk at my house. Sakura was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice her sensei walking up to her. Sakura. Huh? Yes sensei. Are you okay? Kakashi saw her fidget and Sakura messed with her red dress. Why yeah, I'm okay. In the next second, she was hoisted up and carried by her sensei. I'll carry you the rest of the way. Kakashi said with an eye smile. Oh okay. Sakura flushed as she shifted to his back. Up you two. Time to move out. Kakashi ordered his other two students. They gathered themselves and prepared to walk. Kakashi-sensei. I want to be carried too. Menma yelled like a child jealous of their siblings getting more attention. Menma back off. There's only space for me. Sakura spoke for Kakashi as she yelled at the blonde. TCH, we're going to take turns. No, we aren't. Kakashi looked at the impassive Satsuki. Gross. The sweat dropped. His face went back to its aloof expression and Kakashi pondered on what happened. I've got to report this back to Lord Hokage. Naruto is alive and insanely powerful. He practically embarrassed Zabuza in turn, meaning he could do the same to me. He's a true heir to the Sharingan. Looking at Satsuki again, Kakashi compared the two. Even though it was brief. The vast difference between them was like night and day. I could only imagine what must have happened in the mist. X. Naruto landed on a tree branch. Slowly sunk down to his butt and dragged a hand down his face. A big sigh came from his chest as his heart thumped in his chest. Mission accomplished. Yes. Then what's got you so down? Shisui, their team sensei asked. Naruto faltered for a second, making his other two teammates worry. I saw Satsuki and she's on a team with Kakashi and two other genin. Instantly, they understood the reason for Naruto's somber mood. Mira, a more mature and understanding young lady. She grabbed his hand and pulled him up. Well, there is also good news in knowing she is alive. Although her hating us will definitely make things harder. But if I know anything about you, it's that I know you won't let our sister foster in her hatred for long. Mira was like a fresh ray of sunshine to warm him up again. I know you'll do all you can to save her. And so will we. Jinkusu supported Mira's words as he tossed Naruto a grin. So it's best we get this news back to the Mizukage and see what she wants to do about it. Shisui had pulled out a scroll and already began to write a message. They had all changed, forced to grow up in the brutal war. Or become sheep waiting for the wolf. Pain changes all. It is not picky, nor does it wait long, it is guaranteed once you begin to breathe. You're right, thank you. Naruto hugged Mira who was all too eager to return it. Now before you two start to make out. Let's focus up and finish what we came here to do. Shisui said. We are out here to take Zabuza and spread the word of our borders opening back up. The Hidden Mist village was now opening up to the world once more. Rebuilding was done and now they needed to pull in clients and open trade. Naruto, where is Zabuza? He was taken by a mist hunter ninja. That drew question marks on their heads. But we are the only team sent to trail him. Mira mentioned. That's not all, there was also a Yuki clan member who took Zabuza. They were the person who incapacitated Zabuza and left. In just a few minutes all that happened. Shisui pondered on what to do. Until he turned back to face Naruto. I assume you did something to this hunter nin. Naruto couldn't help the affronted smirk that came on his face. I didn't kill them if that's what you're wondering. He said laughing. Well, what did you do? Their sensei asked again. I placed them in a passive genjutsu to recall them if need be. Without even activating his Sharingan and during their brief eye contact, Naruto had placed them in a genjutsu. Shall I call them back now? Shisui looked to toss the idea over in his head as he thought about what to do. Yes, go ahead, we need to learn what they are doing with Zabuza and why they are impersonating Hunter Ninja. Maybe they do so as to make a quick retreat if Zabuza is ever injured. You said he was knocked out by this person, yes. Upon her boyfriend's nod, Mira started again. Zabuza's a rogue ninja and they are a hunter nin. So it makes sense they'd always swoop in when Zabuza is defeated. Sounds about right. Jinkusu added. Look at you using your brain. He poked fun at Mira, who in turn pinched his side. A short while later the masked hunter ninja appeared holding Zabuza over their shoulder. They remained silent and seemed to await orders with their head lowered, like a robot awaiting a task to do. Naruto took off the mask first, which revealed the young woman underneath. Their face was gentle and smooth, coffee brown eyes were currently zoned out. Ooh oh, she's so pretty. Mira admired her silky hair and snow queen-like beauty. Tell us what you are doing in the land of waves. Naruto ordered. And so Haku began telling the group everything important or minor. Naruto made sure to hear everything no matter how small or insignificant it may be. They learned Zabuza and Haku had been contracted under Gato, the billionaire who wasn't all he claimed himself to be. This is actually quite a steal for us. We can take Zabuza back and acquire one of our lost clans, while also taking Gato's money. Shisui discerned. But what to do about the Leaf team? He asked himself. The right thing to do would be just ignore them and leave, as our mission was already completed. Mira said. But. Satsuki. Jinkusu muttered. Kidnapping her and forcing her back to the village is not the play. We will wait and see what the Mizukage has to say about this topic. Shisui let an authoritative tone linger in, as he wanted them to know there was no discussing this matter. What can we do for her then? Naruto was eager to help and they all knew. They all remained silent and wondered what would be the best option. This wasn't a small matter or something that could be hastily walked over. Zabuza grunted and drew all their attention in that instant. Their weapons were already drawn and ready to defend themselves if need be. But the rogue ninja was not ready to battle and only blinked several times while wrestling to get up. Zabuza blinked several times and gained motor functions in his brain. What he saw caused his heart to drop to his stomach and blood to run up his body. All three Uchiha were gazing down upon him like he was a rabbit prepped for dinner. Zabuza was on guard as he quickly gathered himself and hurriedly jumped back. In fact, he moved so suddenly that he slipped on the branch and fell to the ground. This drew mocking giggles from Mira, who commented. He's like a roach when the lights come on. Zabuza was in bad shape and he knew a fight with these three powerful shinobi would end in his death. So all he could do was send the child an irate glare. He was expecting Haku to appear next to him, but the girl was still kneeling down, frozen in time. Haku, get over here. He thought his voice would wake her from whatever trance she was in. The action didn't provide pleasurable results. She won't be helping you for the time being. Naruto said. Zabuza growled in frustration. And what do you mean? Currently, she is under my control. Meaning I can order her to do whatever I want, even kill you. Speaking like the killer he was, Naruto visibly displayed no emotion. So it'd be within your best decision to not act out of line. So Zabuza healed and calmed himself in order to hear out what this shinobi wanted. His eyes widened, missed shinobi. He could feel his heart hammering in his chest, ready to explode from his ribcage. Good, now that you've settled down a bit, let's discuss what we are here for. Shisui stepped in. I'm sure you've noticed by now that we are hidden Mist Shinobi. But fear not, we are not here to kill you, Zabuza. Zabuza scoffed. They were certainly not putting up a convincing appearance. Not only did they have a small scuffle, but they also brought his tool under their control. His back was against the wall and his hands up, there was nothing he could do. Not to mention who was talking to him. I know who you are, Shisui Uchiha. How the hell did you end up as a shinobi for the Bloody Mist? Taking in the appearances of the team one more time, Zabuza was able to deduce they were all Uchiha. The taller one has long spiky ink blue hair with two chin-length braids coming down his face. Their eyes were different from Kakashi's genin, these kids had the eyes of killers. They had been through mind-breaking things. Shisui and the girl shared similar features, so they were obviously related. And the other boy, he had no idea who he was. Nothing but a mystery. Shisui gave a light-hearted laugh. Well, that's a long story perhaps. You'll learn of it one day. Shisui let his answer fade and turned serious again. Anyways, we are taking you back to the village. The war is over and peace has taken its place. Zabuza couldn't believe it. His first thought was to open his mouth and neglect the words. Then again, it had been a decade since Zabuza last fought in the war. Zabuza was naive when it came to the war, he fled in hopes of staying alive and not dying over something so delusional. This served to pull an emotion out of Zabuza. He was curious and he had questions. Is Yugura dead? Yes. Shisui quickly responded. When did he die? 4 years ago. Who killed him? At this question, all the Uchiha's lips turned up in a prideful smile. Naori Uchiha. Zabuza whistled and visibly paled. Well, that explains a lot. How is the village? What's its financial situation? How are the citizens of Water Country? You are asking too many questions for a traitorous rogue ninja. Could it be you still harbor love for your village? Shisui asked, gaining a wry smile on his handsome face. It irked Zabuza. The smirk Shisui gave him and the accusing question followed. I don't. It's the reason I left the village, it was dying and I wasn't about to die with it. In their eyes, Zabuza saw clear disappointment mixed with accusing anger. Even still, we received a mission and it will be completed no matter what. Zabuza saw Shisui take a step toward him. Instantly he panicked and started to drown in an ocean of frenzy. Alright. I will come back. Zabuza would have fought back, but it would be a hopeless matter that might end up with him dead. He couldn't take on the purple-haired child. So there was no way he could defeat all three of them at the same time, plus Haku. During his questioning, he learned vital information. The country was done rebuilding and most likely opening its borders and spreading the word of its triumph return to the world. The famed one-eyed empress had taken the hat of Mizukage. The group she sent after him was not just cause either. But the legendary shinobi like Shisui visibly being seen with a mist headband, the word would spread. Contracts would be pulled to them like a magnet. And in terms of coming after him, a three-man cell of Uchiha led by Shisui. He'd bet his arm and leg that someone was already whispering into another person's ear right now. Just let me finish this job. I'm getting paid a lot of money to kill this bridge builder. No. I won't allow you to stop this village from recovering its oppressive rule. Don't you see? This village is in its own war. They have their own Yagura and rebels. Passion and intensity dripped off Shisui's voice. It was so pure and radiant that Zabuza could swear the Uchiha's chakra was mimicking that of a brilliant star. Am noble ninja, the worst type. Zabuza internally ranted. Okay, but let me finish my fight with Kakashi. Shisui cocked his head a bit confused. Strange, I thought you'd ask for a rematch with junior brother here. The mentioned brother was Naruto, who was gazing down at Zabuza balefully. Them too. HMPH, I've already cleaned my hands with you, Zabuza. Do not make me dirty them again. Zabuza had barely held a conversation with Naruto, but already he was beginning to hate him. His powerful gaze and oppressive aura made it hard to stomach his being. I can't with him. Mira shook her head as she smiled with hints of admiration and love mixed into her beautiful onyx eyes. DRR, I'm gonna cut your damn head off. Zabuza showed his hostility openly as he glared. It wasn't his glare alone, Zabuza also released some of his dark and demonic-like chakra. Naruto brushed off Zabuza's weak attempt at intimidation. He had seen far worse and defeated such foes. To him right now, Zabuza was no more than a genin attempting to fight a cage. It was quick, like a flash of light. Naruto had sent a pulse of his chakra towards Zabuza. The man in that quick exchange paled and his eyes went wide like saucers. Before any other hostile exchange could be made, Shisui stepped up and began speaking again. We are done here, do not use this time to flee, or we will hunt you down and drag you back. In 1 week expect to be brought back to the village. Shisui nodded towards Naruto to release Haku. Doing so, Naruto commanded her to stand next to Zabuza, who was 10 feet away and on the wet grassy floor. Release. Undoing the Jinjutsu, Haku looked confused and scanned her surroundings. Her brown eyes landed on Zabuza and she moved before she knew it. Are you okay, master? What happened? I only remember Interfei, it hit her like a bat over the head and she turned to meet the Uchihas. Or so would have. Nobody was there. Nothing, not even a smell or trace of a squad, had been standing on a tree branch. Currently, in the backyard of Tazuna's house, Team 7 was practicing tree climbing. Once they arrived, the group had been greeted by the motherly figure of Tsunami and the insulting bucket hat kid. They had a small lunch and were moved to the backyard for training from Kakashi. The three kids imagined Kakashi was going to teach them a landscape clearing jutsu or something fancy. Not a lesson in tree climbing. Now remember, you need to get this perfect or it doesn't count. Zabuza is still out there preparing. Kakashi gave his encouragement. When they heard Kakashi say Zabuza was still alive, it shocked them. Their skin had become ghostly pale and their eyes wide. Sakura had reached the top on her first try. It shocked all of them to see the weakest member of the team achieve this new training on her first try. Menma and Satsuki, however, were not so lucky. They had been given kunai and instructed to keep climbing that tree until they reached the very top. Kakashi had told Sakura she was to walk up the tree while practicing fighting. So Sakura was walking while using all parts of her body to imitate taijutsu. The sound of 2 sets of feet hitting the ground echoed into Kakashi's ears. The spiky-haired sensei turned his attention from Sakura and saw Menma and Satsuki had landed back on the ground. Harder than it looks, right? Kakashi teased. The witch Menma swirled on his feet and denied the claim. It is not. I'll show you. He charged the tree like it took something from him. Menma didn't do too bad as he raced up the tree. Only to lose his grip and plummet back down to the ground. Idiot. You're not such a genius yourself, Satsuki. If you squint your eyes, you can see my line is above yours. Menma mocked with a face matching a laughing fox. So Satsuki and Kakashi looked at the tree Naruto had just been on. Indeed. Naruto's mark was higher by just a few inches. The dark-haired girl scoffed and moved off to reclaim what was stolen from her. She ran up the tree with a kunai in hand, eyeing every mark she had made today. Her left foot slipped first and before she had to retreat, Satsuki used her last bit of focus to channel her chakra into the opposite leg. Satsuki leaped off the tree doing a flip as she did so. Her feet fell onto the ground with a grace Menma couldn't match. HMPH. Menma only kept laughing. She sent him a glare for his annoyance and was ready to respond. Satsuki looked at her mark on the tree and saw by just an inch, Menma's mark was higher. Ha 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 ha. Menma grabbed his stomach in laughter. Satsuki snarled and turned to the tree. Enough for today, let's turn back inside for dinner. Kakashi walked over toward the tree Sakura was in and motioned for her to jump. She was nervous but did so nonetheless and was perfectly caught in Kakashi's arms. I'm sure Tsunami has made something tasty for us. I won't be eating yet. Satsuki responded coldly. Kakashi let Sakura down as she walked to the back door of the house. Don't be outside too late or you'll miss the chance to eat a fresh dinner. I want Sakura. But I've still got some energy left. Menma turned to face the tree. Only to gasp and quickly rush to Sakura's side and mutter something. It obviously caught her off guard with how surprised Sakura looked. Menma grinned and walked back to his tree with renowned confidence. Upon Satsuki's suspicious gaze, Menma gave her a toothy grin. She flicked her hair at him. It was black with hints of midnight blue running up from the nape of her neck. It was in the process of growing as it hung a bit below her ears. The two wonderful mixes of colors often earned her compliments from Sakura, who'd often asked to style it every now and then. Kakashi only sighed. Like Sakura said, don't be out here too long. Rest is just as important as training. Those were his last words as Kakashi followed Sakura inside the house to eat. The two kids shared a meaningful stare and lingered in silence for a minute. Only to rush after the tree in a double pursuit in hopes of being the first up the tree. Later. The sky had long since been splashed black. The two kids out practicing didn't mind though. Not even when the soft chilly winds tickled at their skin. Menma dropped to his back after his last failed attempt. His chest was slightly going up and down. But he wasn't entirely exhausted and was still prepared for more training. Satsuki however. Her blue-collared shirt was sticking to her skin with how damp it was. Her hair was wet and plastered against her forehead as she looked ready to fall over. Just when he thought she was going to call it a night and go back inside, something pulled her back. Like a rope was around her neck and yanking her back to face her reality. She balled her fist and spit on the ground. She charged with an uncharacteristic yell as she ran to the tree. Instead of sticking, her foot was blasted off, splintering the tree and leaving a footprint. Damn, you know too much chakra isn't going to get you up the tree. Menma still moved to be at Satsuki's side as she groaned on the ground. Are you okay? Menma checked her body for any serious injuries, taking extra care to check her feet. Get away. I don't need your help. Satsuki yelled and shoved Menma away. She quickly tried to stand but fell nonetheless. Yes, she sounded like a total bitch just now. But, she didn't mean to come off as such. Currently, her mind is a hurricane of mixed emotions. And in Menma's effort to look out for her. Which she was actually thankful for. Satsuki rejected it as she didn't want to be a burden to him. Or to anyone. Why are you yelling at me? I'm just trying to help you. Menma stood over Satsuki as he glared with his bright baby blues. Even with his teammate's outburst, Menma could feel there was something else to it. Satsuki flinched back. She didn't look at him and instead found solace in the grass beneath them. Sorry. Menma blinked and blinked again. He wasn't sure he heard that right. Did you apologize? Can you say it again so I can be sure? Satsuki's face flushed and resembled her favorite vegetables. I shall not repeat myself. She yelled up at him with angry eyes. To Menma, she looked more like a squirrel. If a squirrel could glare and kill you, that is. Menma wasn't sure why he drew that conclusion, but he liked it anyway. This is just more than I expected it to be. Satsuki drew her legs closer to herself and wrapped her arms around them. Menma saw this, and Satsuki was going into her shell, which was not good. He'd been there, wrapped up in yourself and only concerned with protecting yourself from the world around you. It worked, but it also acted as a barrier. Keeping others out and not releasing anything trapped inside to escape outward. Which caused the effect of drowning in that same shell. So to help, Menma grabbed Satsuki's legs and pulled them so she could stretch. You need to loosen your legs or you'll get a cramp. I'm not going to cramp. Even still, Satsuki kept her hairless legs out. Menma took a seat next to her on the grass. So you weren't talking about the mission. It didn't take much to figure out what he meant. Satsuki pondered on it, should she really be talking like this with Menma of all people? He was an idiot. However, he understood her the most. Or had a semblance of what she was going through. When she didn't answer, Menma turned to look at the two trees they were practicing on. We've made a lot of progress today. Satsuki looked up and saw several marks on the tree. From when she first started and it was only 7 feet off the ground. Now, it was at least 15 feet off the ground. We've come a long way. When I first started, I was nervous and unsure of myself. Only I knew it though, I couldn't let anyone know how I really felt. Menma's words. They were too deep and real for him to be only talking about climbing trees. I went at it hard and gave it all I had. Even when others laughed in mockery at me, I laughed at my achievements and successes. Menma stopped and recalled a memory causing him to laugh. One time during school. He could be found in the yard practicing taijutsu alone. Everyone laughed at his movements and his effort. They were all hanging around and leaving in groups finished and satisfied with their day. He wasn't. Days later, he knocked those bullies out with the same sloppy moves they laughed at. My dream. Being the Hokage, it's not a dream anymore. Satsuki finally turned to look at Menma. She was shocked as being Hokage was all he would ever talk about. It's an obsession. I'm going to become Hokage. It's all I had growing up. I knew if nothing else, that goal, that better version of myself. I wanted it, I needed it. To become something better than what you currently were. Menma needed that support since nobody else supported him. He'd support himself. I can't say I understand you. Satsuki finally spoke. Her hand sat in her lap and she was beginning to rethink everything she knew about Menma. He tossed her a grin. Well, that means I did good. What are you saying? Menma's grin fell. I'm just talking. I'm saying you should not go back into your shell. I know it hurts, but you need to face these trials for what they are. Satsuki clutched her pants and her arms began to shake. I know, I have. That's the exact reason I hate this so much. She glared at everything. I thought I was finally getting over everything, then he showed up. Who does he think he is? All of them. They left me, you know, my clan left me behind to stay in the village. My own family, brothers and sisters. Did you know him, that other boy? Menma asked, thinking back to the strong kids who effortlessly defeated Zabuza. Satsuki didn't respond at first. And Menma figured she wouldn't say anything. I did. His name is Naruto. I had only spoken to him on occasions. He was very famous in the clan. Brother Naruto was an icon to us kids. Menma wasn't sure she noticed it. But Satsuki started smiling and she said Naruto's name with respect and familiarity. He came from famous parents so we all addressed him with respect and he treated us the same. Even as a kid he was arrogant though, he was well aware of the weight that his name carried. Most noticeably, he was strong and bullheaded. Sometimes, I watched him train. Stalker. Shut it. Satsuki yelled with tinted cheeks. And it wasn't all the time like Hinata does with you. Huh? Hinata stalks me? Idiot. She shook her head. Anyways, Naruto was like an idol I guess to me. I trained with hopes of gaining his attention and recognition. On a special night for our clan. I entered a tournament to face him. Did you win? Menma asked curiously. No. I was beaten, but not shamed. During the fight, he was driving me, pushing for me to be more. He was too charismatic. Much like you, I guess that's why you get on my nerves so much. Tsu, I'm guessing you hate them, right? Which is why you want them dead. Menma didn't let the pity he felt sink into his voice. I do, I will kill them all. Revenge is not the answer, Satsuki. Killing your family will bring you nothing. And how do you know that? Our pain is similar, but it is not the same. You can't understand how I feel. But I do. I once hated the village for its treatment of me. But you don't see me trying to take my revenge on everyone or crying about how the world is unfair. I'm not you and you're not me. We are not one but two. Separate people who walk their own paths. Menma was growing frustrated. Satsuki, you don't have to be alone. Just what? Let it go, forget everything they put me through. How I was forced to become a princess and subject of sorrow for the village. I will not. I'm done talking about this, Menma. I'm thankful you care and are truly trying to help me. But just stay out of it. Satsuki turned and showed what was like a glare and a sad frown in one. This has nothing to do with you, so just stay out of my business. With nothing left to say, Satsuki walked back into the house to recover. Leaving Menma to ponder on what they had just talked about. Satsuki, I'm your friend. I just want to help you. I'll do anything to help you, I promise. Menma got up and decided upon it. Their talk opened up a lot to be learned about each other. He learned Satsuki didn't like being a burden to others, she admired Naruto for who he was and hated that she admired him. She was sad and betrayed her clan left without her. He learned they were similar. But Menma already knew that. It was why he so desperately wanted to befriend the Uchiha girl. That would be a tall task. However, much like the tree marks. Inch by inch, they'd get closer and higher. Inside his room, Kakashi was writing down the current events of the mission. The contents of the letter were how their client lied about the rank of the mission. Zabuza had been their opponent as soon as they touched ground. The most important thing, however, was the discovery of Uchiha. Naruto Uchiha to be more specific. What would be done with this information, Kakashi was unsure. Though he had a hunch they'd be no doubt sending someone to the Hidden Mist village. Kakashi went through the hand signs of summoning Pakken. Yo Kakashi. The little pug dog raised his paw in greeting. Pakken. Kakashi copied the greeting with an eye smile. So what do you need? Are we tracking someone down? The brown dog walked around the room and began sniffing. Fish, I like fish. I'll give you some for your help. But no, we are not tracking anyone down. I need you to deliver this scroll to the Hokage for me. It is a quick report on the mission so far. It's of major importance. Kakashi's tone was serious, which let Pakken know how important this scroll really was. Pakken turned and let Kakashi place it in the small backpack he had on his back. Consider it done. Pakken left in a cloud of smoke. Week later. He's all yours, Satsuki. Like taking a dog off a leash. Satsuki was gone and used her kunai to skillfully dispel all the water clones of Zabuza. Look who improved. I'd say you've got a rival, Haku. Zabuza came into view once he stepped from the mist. So it would seem. The false hunter ninja spoke. They stood on the other side of the bridge, while Team 7 excluding Menma stood on the other side. She's got skill. Even though those clones were 1/10 of the original water clone jutsu, she did destroy them all effortlessly. Zabuza grunted in annoyance and dissatisfaction at Haku's assessment. I can't contain my excitement. My heart is throbbing and my blood races. Satsuki took a step forward. An open invitation for Haku, who spun on her heels looking like a tornado as she approached. Their metal weapons screeched as kunai met senbon in a fast-paced exchange. The two young shinobi moved in harmony, spinning and dancing around the other. So she can match Haku at this speed. That's right, she can. Satsuki's a genius in the shinobi arts. The two clashing were unaware of their two teachers' shared thoughts and only focused on battling the other. We are only after the bridge builder, not you. Back out and I won't have to kill you. Haku's voice came out like ice. HMPH, don't presume you can kill me. You don't get it. I have you outmatched. We are surrounded by water which I can control. Also, you only have one hand available. Satsuki was confused about that last part, but she didn't show it on her face. Yes, one of her hands is occupied with holding Haku's senbon at bay. The hand that wasn't was completely healthy. It's useless to explain, I'll show you. Faster than Sasu could perceive, Haku's hand flashed through one-handed seals. Even Kakashi, who was watching, was freaked out. He began to sweat and his eye trembled in fear. One-handed seals. I've never seen that. Secret jutsu. 1,000 needles of death. Haku proclaimed. When she was done, her right foot stomped the puddle under her feet. The water rose up around them and turned into countless needle-like senbon. She jumped back so as not to be skewered by her own attack. Nobody was there. Not even a body was at the scene of impact. She vanished. Haku felt a presence appear behind her and saw Satsuki there. You are not that fast. So from this point onward, you are going to be defending. Satsuki went for a stab to Haku's lower back. But the nin was quick and vanished from the spot. Satsuki chased and clashed her kunai against the senbon. Haku ducked her head to the side, avoiding the kunai from Satsuki's other hand. What followed was a hook from Satsuki which Haku ducked low to the ground to avoid. Which was successful as the hook hit the air instead of her face. Although, Satsuki launched her foot out to kick Haku directly in the face, sending her back to her master Zabuza. Haku, stop playing around and finish this brat. Zabuza growled from his standing position. Haku rose again. As you wish, Zabuza-sama. Haku's hand blazed through hand seals. Ice style. Crystal ice mirrors. The fight had completely turned in Haku's favor. It was sudden and decisive. This would go down in her memory for sure as an example on how to completely tip the scale of the fight. Even when Menma jumped in to help, it still did them no good. Right now, the silly blonde was on the ground with needles all over his body like a pincushion. I don't know what to do. How can I beat her? Satsuki was on the verge of panicking as she had to use everything she had to stay focused. A stray thought entered her mind in the midst of battle. How would Naruto be doing right now? Satsuki dug her nails into her hand at that thought. Damn him. Why was she thinking about him now? She'd only seen him one time. I can win on my own. I can see your needles. Satsuki readied her kunai. As it would seem. Your Sharingan allows you to predict my movements. Haku answered with an infuriating calmness. Let's see if you can keep up with this speed. She couldn't. Satsuki was like a magnet for the ice weapons as her body was growing numb from the cold. Saw Satsuki. Menma stawed to a knee, but a flash of light and he was hit back to the ground by Haku. That's it, our only opening. When she stops to hit us. Satsuki then froze. She had her Sharingan, it was active. For years she struggled to bring it to life, but the stress of the moment must have opened her eyes. It was due to the tragic night of her clan's killing. When she was forced to see her parents be killed over and over by her older brother. It was as if she put a self-inflicted seal on her bloodline, which kept her from using the power of her Sharingan. This was twice now, twice her eyes changed during this mission. When she was filled with hate gazing at Naruto for the first time. And now on the verge of death battling an enemy ninja. I will need to draw an opening for myself. She will be able to predict a head-on attack. I will go after her partner instead. Her eyes turned to the prone form of Menma on the ground. Haku was holding back immensely on these kids so as to not kill them. In this fight, she hammered them down by dashing between the mirrors at the speed of light and watched as they were not able to do anything. No Menma. Satsuki sent chakra to her feet and moved as quickly as she could. It was a strange feeling, her body moved on its own like a machine taking orders. It all happened too quickly. She was moving toward Menma when the next second she was picked up and carried away. Looking up, Satsuki saw a face she hated. There he was, Naruto. His hair was an alter ego of her being it was midnight purple compared to her midnight blue. He didn't look at her, but still, she could feel the worry in his black eyes that glared at Haku through the bangs over his forehead. His clothing was like that of most Uchiha. It was a black high-collared black top with their family's fan smack in the center of the back. It was long and reached all the way down to his calves contained in black pants. Currently, she was in a bridal-style carry and felt the firmness of his arms. His hands were in black gloves and held tightly onto her, as if he was scared letting her go would mean her death. Was he worried about her? That's when his eyes shifted down to look at her. And he finally opened his mouth and spoke. You did well to fend her off. I will not forget your efforts. Despite the situation and all the chaos going on around her, Satsuki blushed. She actually blushed, like a little girl. It was embarrassing as she felt her cheeks burn. All the anger and hatred were currently shoved to the back of her mind as she was thrown for a mile. His voice was so solid but still caring. There was an inviting warmness to it as he complimented her. Satsuki felt like a kid again, fighting Naruto in the center of that ring. When times were better and she was just an innocent little girl. Before he abandoned her. It came back like it never left. She wrestled and jerked out of his grip and landed on her feet before bouncing back. Why are you here? To finish the job. Naruto was unbothered by her reaction and looked level-headed. Remember what I told you a week ago. That's what I'm doing here. Was that it? To save her? Who did he think he was? Someone to just come back into her life randomly and decide he would save her. Screw you, bastard. I reject it. I don't want any help from you. They had to jump as needles rained from the ice mirrors. Naruto dodged with fluid grace, while Satsuki suffered small cuts. Menma. Where did he go? Don't worry, he's safe. Naruto calmed her worries as he analyzed the ice mirrors. Do you wish to break our contract? What are you doing here? You were going to hurt my sister, I can't allow that. Don't call me that. Satsuki raged from her side of the dome. Please leave, I must kill her for my master. Haku begged. I will not lay down my arms. I won't hurt you too much, or your family might be angry with me. Naruto turned on his Sharingan and riled his chakra to the surface. My family is dead. Naruto gave her a knowing smirk that tickled her heart. She was now curious and wondered why he gave her such a knowing look. Before Haku could say something else, Naruto released a ball of fire at one of her mirrors. A futile act, my mirrors. It melted. Fire style. Phoenix tail jutsu. One big ball of fire was spit from Naruto's mouth that began to heat up the air around them. The ball then split into dozens of smaller balls that connected with the mirrors and melted them all. Haku couldn't believe it as it was all so sudden. Thinking quickly, she leaped from the mirror before she perished from the heat. Once she landed on the ground, Haku didn't have time to think and her body acted for her as her hands froze the air and protected her from the overhead strike of Naruto. Nice jutsu, but I've seen it before. Naruto pulled the sword back and attacked the barrier in the same spot again. It shattered to the ground as Naruto moved forward to attack. This time, Haku created a blade of ice from her bloodline and used it to defend herself from Naruto's attack. It was reinforced by her chakra, giving it a bit more durability as it withstood the blows of Naruto. Haku's arm stung and she felt the sword on the verge of crumbling. So she acted quickly and repaired it with her chakra. Good, I figured you'd have some sort of Kenjutsu experience. Naruto used his two swords to demolish Haku in the fast-paced battle. It was tough, but he ensured I'd be the best. Haku grunted under the pressure of strikes. She blocked a particularly powerful attack and pushed Naruto's arms down. leaving his chest open for a clean attack. Well, he'll have to train you harder next time. Because your best isn't working. Naruto surprised her and blocked with just one of his swords. Instead, she was the one cut open again along the center of her chest, just shy of her breast. Satsuki watched from the sideline amazed. Those two were incredible as they attacked each other faster than her one Tomo could process. She couldn't believe it, she was fascinated by Naruto's battle. Even though her Sharingan was attempting to track the movements, it didn't work. Her brain wasn't able to understand anything that Naruto or Haku did. Was Haku really holding back this much with her? Naruto's twin katanas. He was fast and sharp, taking advantage of every movement. Satsuki watched as Naruto defended undefendable attacks with grace. She was seeing the peak, or was it? Did he have more moves in his bag of tricks? She admired his style. And she hated that. Double blade formation. Fifth act. It was a storm of movements that concealed Naruto's two swords. Haku had no chance of blocking, countering, or even defending the attack. Haku found herself struck more than 25 times by the hurricane blade. She dropped and fell into deep darkness seconds later. Wow, what was that? That was beautiful. I've never seen such a perfect form of movement. Satsuki's eyes were widened in shock. This whole spectacle was breathtaking. That is my reward for entertaining Miyuki-san, cherish it. Naruto respected Haku's prowess and placed his two katanas back in place. The mist on the bridge was lifted and blown away. Nice job. Amayuri is going to be proud when I tell her of this. Shisui appeared in a flock of crow feathers along with Mira at his side. Inkusu jumped from the side of the bridge and laid Menma down. This guy was a rascal. I had to knock him out. There you are, brat. Zabuza yelled. He halted his fight with Kakashi and turned to face him. Fight me right now. You owe me a rematch. No. I defeated your student who is stronger than you. So I think you see the outcome. Zabuza's brow twitched. I don't care about that. Just come. Shisui. The mentioned man turned to see Kakashi giving him a wide-eyed stare. You two, just how many Uchihas are alive? Shisui gave his ex-Anbu commander a wave. Don't worry about it, Kakashi. But I must. I need to bring you back to the village for questioning. Kakashi vowed. Stop, you know I was stronger than you years ago, I assure you that gap has only gotten wider. Shisui answered coolly. Let's go, Zabuza, you've had enough time to play around. He would have argued more, but stopped when Shisui activated his Sharingan. Alright, damn red-eyed bastard. We'll meet again, Kakashi, very soon. Shisui gave the man one last smile, before vanishing. Mira followed shortly after. But she gave Satsuki a wave before doing so. Jinkusu also left, leaving Satsuki with a peace sign. Zabuza threw Haku over his shoulder and followed the others. We already took care of Geto, so no need to worry about him backstabbing you. Naruto tossed a scroll at Kakashi's feet. In that are notes, money, and a location of Geto's hideout. Why are you doing this? We already took most of the money. What's left is money for this village to rebuild. Nothing else to it. Naruto turned and locked eyes with Satsuki. Train and grow, you've already done so well. I'll see you around. Naruto vanished in a cloud of mist. And that marks the end of the story. Well, not really, the story is still ongoing. The author is still continuing the story, and as such, if you all want to see how this story ends, you should follow the author himself. The link to this story is in the description. If you guys made it this far and want more contents like this, comment down below to let me know. Thanks for sticking out till the end. I would gladly appreciate every likes, comments and subscribes I could get on this series. It only takes a minute, and best of all, you can show your support for absolutely no cost. See you in the next one.